This conference will now be recorded.
So, hello everyone, welcome to day 7 in our GCP Cloud Architect training, where uh, last week we started exploring the demonstration. So, where last week only we started exploring our various compute options, and one of the compute options which we started exploring little deeper was GCE, Google Compute Engine, and we saw some various cool features which it has, something like per second billing, which was an innovation which Google brought. Later, other cloud providers followed it. Now it's not a unique feature. Every cloud provider has that. Custom machine type, which is still a unique feature, which no other cloud provider has it. Choose the machine type of your choice, at least the closest one which you can have. That is something which we saw. And uh, and other common features like it is going to have vCPUs, memory, and the persistent disk is what we had seen, and we had gone through a complete description of all the fields in the GCP console. That way we explored why a region is important. When do you choose a specific region, the latency, and inside the region, when you select a specific zone, why the zone needs to be selected. Basically, maybe if you need GPUs, if you need some little different machine types, some are not available in all the zones, so maybe you have to specifically choose a zone. So that is something which we saw. We saw about startup scripts. We saw about other cool features like what is a shielded VM, where by default from April 2020, shielded VMs have become the default, which is going to be basically a hardened Linux distribution or Windows distribution is what we had seen. And we also saw about, based on the image which you use, the boot disk, what OS you want to go for, whether you want to go with Linux or Windows. In Linux, if you choose open source distributions like Ubuntu, Red Hat, CentOS, it's going to be free. But if you choose premium images like Red Hat, Windows 2012, uh, 16, 19 servers, you will have a cost to that. And we also saw one very cool feature like preemptible VMs, which you can get up to 80% discount, as what we had seen last week. And last week we tried doing all those things, and we were able to do a regular virtual machine, and we had stopped it. And to save cost, I had stopped that VM and I just recreated it just 10 minutes before. That's it. So a regular virtual machine where we had provisioned a web server. So if I click on it, it's going to show me Apache web server page. It is working. We had added some labels, all those things. We had just stopped it here. So today what we'll do is we will continue with the next steps. Preemptible virtual machine. We'll create a preemptible virtual machine. It's going to be quick, and we are going to use our command line. So we know from our cheat sheet which we created last week itself. To have something which is preemptible, we have to just mention this flag. That's it. Uh, Price wise, we are very clear. What is going to be taken back, we are very clear. What is going to be retained, we are very clear. So what is going to be taken back by Google when it gives a 30 seconds notices, the vCPU and memory, but the disk is going to be there. So make sure you have some shutdown script and dump something into your disk, or your script is super fast, it can copy something to a Google Cloud storage bucket. You can also do that. So let's try to provision a uh, preemptible virtual machine, all those things, and see. But before doing that, we usually have this process, right? When we create something, when we are done with it, we usually delete it. So last week we created a regular virtual machine and we just stopped it. We did not go and delete it. Let's try to do that deletion first. So this is the first one, right? So a regular virtual machine, a regular cost. So if I try to click on delete, shows me you have selected a instance because some of them have delete protection enabled. What is this, folks? I'm not able to delete it. If I see it here, even here I cannot delete it. So what does this error indicate or a message indicate here? Basically, just to recollect what we had done last week. Why I cannot delete this instance, folks? Please use your chat window so others can think also. Why we are not able to delete it? The message is on the screen itself, which helps you out. Nothing to do with that. No. Yes, Deepak Bhattacharya, that was correct. So when we created the virtual machine, we had turned on a small feature called as to protect our VMs from accidental deletes. So don't delete it explicitly. Like if you were to delete it explicitly, right? This is what you should do, folks. Click on the VM, click on the VM and edit the VM. You have to do this explicitly. Yes, the checkbox, Anil B. That's correct. There was a checkbox. Which was showing basically uh, to put a double protection basically. So don't delete the VM unless I explicitly come and uncheck this. So I have to uncheck this enable deleted delete protection. Then save it. Now go ahead and delete it. If you want, you can go ahead and delete it. Let me just go back. So now the delete option should be okay. Let me just refresh it. Yeah, Shanti, is there a question? So if I just go now, the delete button is enabled for me. So this is how you can avoid accidental deletes usually by putting the checkbox. Uh, uh, and this is for individual virtual machines. Maybe tomorrow we'll start with something like groups of virtual machine. At that point, this is not even required. There's going to be a different control there, but this is whenever you do some individual virtual machines, make sure you are able to do it. So there's one question. Let me just see it. Uh, Anil, I have both the Anils there.
So
Yeah.
basically, from your link, we went to from your calendar. We went to a meeting, which was a wrong link. Basically, it looks like.
So it was Google Meet, right? So by default, it's usually gets okay. So I'll make sure I'll delete that Google Meet. So usually it's go to meeting, right? So I'll make sure I'll delete
Yeah,
that. Sorry.
yeah. So we went there, and there was nobody, and we
Yeah.
hopped back.
Sorry.
Right, no worries. Thank you.
Yeah. So now we should be able to delete this virtual machine. So the button is showing up. So we'll not delete this. I'll keep it for some specific requirement. But the delete protection can help us in a very effective way. So usually I have done blunders like this where I have even deleted some production instances like individual servers. Maybe it's an FTP server, something of that sort. I have done this. I usually do this kind of deletion. If it's deleted, gone. Nothing can be done. You have to recreate it from the scratch. So please remember that. There's one question.
So,
1 minute. This
quick.
delete protection to exist. 1 minute. 1 minute. So this delete protection to exist, do exist for other resource or only for VMs? It is only for this virtual machines. Go ahead, Anil. Was there a question, Anil? Okay. Uh, so will it be deleting the underlying resource to everything? So when you go and delete this, maybe okay, I'll just show you the delete stuff. What and are all the underlying resources? vCPU, memory, external IP address, internal IP address, plus there is a disk. So the disk also is going to go off. Everything. So if you just delete it, everything is going to delete based on what is the setting which you have done. So whether do you want to retain the disk or not. Additional disk will not be deleted by default. Additional disk, data disk is always going to be kept. That is a default behavior. So, but your boot disk is going to get deleted if you have gone with all the default settings. So to know whether what is going to be get deleted, basically with respect to disk, you can look into the details of that virtual machine. So if I go into the details of the virtual machine, I'll come to know whether the boot disk are going to be deleted or not. Last week we had seen there's an option where you can do that, no auto boot delete disk, no auto, there's an option here if you see here, no boot disk auto delete. If you have turned this on, the disk is not going to get deleted. Similarly, auto delete, yes, if you have given it, this is for the data disk, it's going to delete it basically. If I look into my disk here, if I look into my disk, you see when deleting the instance, delete the disk. You have mentioned that. So your boot disk is also going to go off. But by default, the data disk is going to be kept. That is a default behavior. If you have turned it off also, then even that is going to get deleted. It is based on what you have said during the creation or if you have edited it. So the public IP also is going to go off unless you have not made it static. So all the IPs which you see is a ephemeral IP. So it's an ephemeral IP, so it's going to go off. Even if you stop and start also, you'll get a new IP address. We'll talk about IP address in our networking class. So basically you're going to, if you stop it, everything is going to go off in this case because nothing is something which we have made to retain. So your vCPU memory is going to go off, your internal IP address, external IP address, your boot disk, everything is going to go off in this case. But there are options where you can retain your external IP address, you can retain your internal IP address, you can retain your boot disk, you can retain your data disk. Possibilities are there. Hope that answers your questions, folks. And we will retain this virtual machine for a future demonstration. So that's the reason I'm not deleting it. And machine type wise, it's not little, it's not so heavy. I can allow it to be there for a few more hours. Okay. So now what we will do is, I hope it's clear, folks, what we did last week and a continuation, a few of the stuffs which we have done so far. Now we'll do the next part of the demonstration, which is preemptible VM. So now you know the difference between a regular virtual machine and a preemptible virtual machine. Now what we'll do is we'll try to create a preemptible virtual machine using the command line. And I'll try to show you how to do that. It's only that preemptive. You just put that flag. That's it. Job done. But let's do it once so that it gets registered once in our mind so that it could be helpful in the exam.
The preemptive is only for 24 hours, right?
Maximum
Short
24
duration.
hours.
Yeah.
Maximum 24 hours. By the time this comes, I had a small story on preemptible VMs. I had explained it. Let me try to explain it one more time. So I was writing some story kind of a stuff. So I would like to show you anyway. The Cloud Shell is taking time to launch. I thought I'll use that time. Let it come up. Yes, it has come up. The life of a virtual machine is 24 hours. The preemptible virtual machine is 24 hours. Let me just wait for this to come up, folks. Or we can create it by the time it comes. G Cloud Beta Interactive. And let's try to do little more stuffs on command line. So G Cloud compute instances create. Now I'll call it as batch 6 PVM. Basically to indicate it's a preemptible virtual machine. Nothing to do with the name, folks. You can choose whatever the name you want. It could be anything. It does not need to be unique, but as long as it is unique in the project, that's good enough. So the most important thing is the flag which I mentioned, preemptible. This is the most important thing. So, and if you see, they give that nice tooltip also. If provided the instance will be preemptible and time limited. Instance may be preempted to free up the resource from standard instances. Will only be able to run for a limited amount of time. Maximum is 24 hours. So a simple example is the Nayak movie. If anyone has seen it, Anil Kapoor's movie. So 1 day CM kind of stuff. It's 1 day VM. That's it. Maximum. That's it. So preemptible. Now I can also add some machine type. So if I don't mention anything, right, it's going to be N1 standard one. So if you want to mention a specific thing, you mention a machine type flag. So F1 micro. And is this command going to work, folks? Assuming preemptible spelling is correct, machine type spelling is correct, this command is going to work or not? Any thoughts, folks? Yes, very close, but I need one more thing. Anil, yes, Anil B. So the zone is missing. So if you hit enter, it's not going to work. It's going to either ask, please give me the zone in which you want to provision it, or mention it via this flag zone. So let me just do that. So East 1A, and we can also see the time, how fastly it does that. So we are creating a preemptible virtual machine via command line, and we know the cost, benefits, all those things. I have already explained you last week itself. That's the reason I did not do it in the UI. So 11 seconds it was able to provision it. If I just minimize this, refresh my UI, I should have my new stuffs, and this is going to show up quickly. Now, some benefits which you get when you view certain stuffs in a command line. Now, if I show you like this, now can you identify which virtual machine is preemptible and which one is a regular one? Except the name. Assume the names are not followed properly. They have given everything a common name like batch 1, batch 2, something like that. From the name, you are not able to identify it. Now we have followed some procedure, that's okay, but not everybody is going to follow that procedure. If you, without the name, say for example, if it is something like this, okay, I cannot take. So if this name column was not there, and if you were to find out the virtual machine, which one is preemptible, which one is non-preemptible from the UI, the only option is you have to go click on every virtual machine and know whether there's a warning label. So if I click on the virtual machine, you will come to know whether it's preemptible or not. You see this? This instance is preemptible and will live for no longer than 24 hours. That's it. This is how you can come to know whether it's a regular virtual machine or a preemptible virtual machine. So if I just go back and click on the regular one, this warning message will not be there. This is the only indication, which is not really a good one, I would say. It's going to be a little difficult if you were to get the list of all the virtual machines which is preemptible and you wanted to share it with the management for some reporting purpose. You cannot get those things. So in the UI, now, if you look into the columns also, there is no column basically which indicates, if I click on this columns, you can look into it. There's no column which shows, which I can enable for preemptibility. But the command line is very cool where you can do something like this. Gcloud compute instances list. List me all the instances. That's it. So it's going to very nicely list all the VMs, and it's also going to have one additional column called as preemptible, true or empty. If it's empty, it is a regular virtual machine. If it is true, it's going to be basically preemptible. You see this column. This it gives it so easy for you to do it. Now, if you want to go slightly advanced, you can also do something like filter and you can put preemptible. Well, true. If I just do this, you should be able to see basically only virtual machines, which is preemptible. Let's just wait. So these kinds of commands I've already mentioned in the cheat sheet. You can give a try. Basically, you're putting filters and retrieving the stuff. So the way is the column name and the value. That's it, folks. You may ask, where are these things are going to be helpful? Who knows? You want to create a report. You want to create a report, or you want to export it. Uh, Yesterday also I used something of this sort for creating a small script where I have to do basically how many are there. So I use something like this. I had to get a count, and based on the count, if there is a instance existing, do one specific task. If an instance is not, if the count is 0, do a different task. So this kind of scripts sometimes could be helpful. And that too, this was the script which I was using. This kind of script which I was using was in a CI/CD process. Now I will get count as 2. I can have a few extra configurations done so that it's going to show me its count is always 1. Or if nothing is existing, for example, if I do false, it should show me nothing exists basically. So these kind of small tips could be really helpful from the implementation, the filter part. Okay, now let me see whether my this thing has come up. So I had a small story, folks. Let me just do this. I it should show 1. Yes, totally, because it's we have a regular virtual machine. Yeah, we have a regular virtual machine. It's going to show that regular virtual machine if I make it as false. And this command previously was little faster, folks. This command was little faster to list everything. Now it takes around 18 seconds or 20 seconds. Uh, don't know why. This is on the this thing itself. So if you want to make it faster, you have to put certain filters. If you make it as false, it's going to give you the regular virtual machine which we created last week. Now, to just give you one more, I was just creating a small story here. Let me just show you up more. I would have explained verbally last week. So the preemptible virtual machine, a small story behind it. So assume you are so Singapore A zone, many resources, all the resources are idle, and the first customer is you. At 9 a.m. you log in to the console, and you wanted to create a virtual machine basically to do some video transcoding. .mp wvm to .mp4. This is what you want to do. The whole intent is you wanted to do something which is cheaper, in a most cheaper way. That's your main requirement. uh, Definitely, because you know GCP, what you are going to do is you are going to create preemptible virtual machines. So when you create preemptible virtual machine, you are going to get up to 80% discount. So and for your requirement, you need N1 standard 1. So we have known this tip. If it's 4, it's 4 vCPU. And the memory, you can just look into the documentation, you'll get to know. But if you're regularly using it, it's going to be 15 GB. So this is the configuration. Everything is working fine. Now, before you started, the infrastructure was almost idle. The entire data center was idle. Nobody was using it. Maybe some festival season, nobody is using it, something of that sort. Now, the moment you started provisioning it, resources, maybe at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, more customers started provisioning it. Customer 2, customer 3, customer 100 are using Singapore A zone basically for virtual machines. Now, the time is around 3 p.m. Assume the data center is almost full. It's running to its fullest capacity. Now, what happens is mm, a new customer comes, which is customer 111, sorry, 101, where this customer is ready to pay a regular cost, the requirement of this customer is 8 vCPU, 30 GB of RAM. Now, what is left in the data center is only half of it. Everything is all exhausted because every customers are using it at a regular price, and there's only one customer. It is we who have provisioned a preemptible virtual machine. Now, from morning 9 till 3, so it's not 24 hours. So unfortunately, we were not preempted till 3 p.m. Now, because there's a regular customer, there's a customer who's ready to pay a regular price, Google is going to send you a 30 seconds notice, and it's going to be taken back. Once it is taken back, this 4 vCPU and 15 GB RAM, which you had taken as preemptible, will be added to this customer 101, and the customer is going to pay a regular cost. This is what is going to happen behind the scenes, folks, so that you understand how preemptible VMs work. So I had shown the same thing, but I thought let me put this as a story so that you can understand it better. So that's your preemptible VM, and we have kept it as very small, very small VM. Maybe Google is going to retain it for a longer time. You can give a try yourself also. Don't make it very powerful virtual machine. Micro. Do it now. Tomorrow when you come back and see it, you are going to see it is going to be taken off, basically. So that's what going to happen. 24 hours, maximum 24 hours, 10 minutes, or 24 hours, 15 minutes is what's going to happen. Yeah, Kumar, go ahead. What's the question?
Yeah, Mahesh, for preemptive, right? For example, it is for 24 hours, and we charge for 24 hours, right? But
Correct.
if they taken it back around 3 p.m., they will
Yeah.
charge.
So what is the charge from 9 to 3? You just do the difference. That amount is going to be only charged.
But in the calculation when we saw that day, like I mean, it is showing only.
No. So it's per second billing, but the calculator always assumes when you create an instance, the calculator assumes always you're going to run it for a 30 days. So that's what it shows. And I had also shown it's a bug. It has to be divided by at least by 30 so that it's going to give a 1 day cost. They don't do that. So it's
Okay,
always per.
but they will still charge you.
Yes. You don't need to worry about it. And when they take it back, your vCPU and memory is what is going to be taken back. Meaning your storage cost is still going to be paid. You need to pay the storage cost once it's taken back. So what's going to happen basically is if um, Google takes it back, it's going to be something like this, as if like G Cloud compute instance stop batch 6 PVM zone. I have to mention it. Zone quietly stopping it. So this is going to happen when Google preempts it, and it's going to go to stop state. Your storage cost you need to pay. If you have a boot disk, you will definitely have, and if you have a data disk, you are going to have the this thing which you need to pay. Now, if I just put refresh the screen, it's currently in a terminated state. I can just do a list instances list. It's going to show one in running, the other one in terminated state. The one, and it's going to still remain as preemptible only, folks. I have shown you cannot change this VM from preemptible to a regular one later. It is not possible. The meaning, today you started running, maybe if you say okay, let's start it as preemptible, based on the load we'll later try to make it as regular. That is not possible straight away. That's not possible. There are workarounds which you can do, which we'll see today. So you cannot make this as a regular VM. So have stopped this. If I go to this virtual machine, and look into the details, the preemptibility is always fixed. So let me click on edit. So if you come to the preemptibility part, you see this? It is on. I cannot even change anything. It's a read-only field. So you cannot convert a regular virtual machine into preemptible and vice versa. And you have to decide whether it's preemptible or regular during the creation stage itself. If you make a mistake, the only option is you have to recreate it simple, straightforward way. And there are some workarounds which we are going to talk about today called as snapshots and custom images. Okay, so hope this preemptible part is clear, folks. And what happens to a preemptible VM is something like this. When Google takes it back, it's going to be in a stop state or terminated state, to be very specific. It's in a terminated state, terminated status, where the data is going to be there in your persistent disk. Now, if Google takes it back, no problem. Go and do something like this. You have a script. Start it. Go and start it. That's it. So once you start it, it's going to again start. Now the clock starts ticking from this time onwards. Now the time is around, in my clock, this thing. Instance is created. If I just do list, it's going to show me it is preemptible, and the clock starts from now onwards, not from the previous clock, because we had already stopped it. Now what time you started, from that time onwards, 24 hours maximum is what is the life of this VM is all about. Hope it's clear, folks. Awesome. Now I may need your this could be a small activity which you want to do it. So what is the activities you are going to do is basically create a micro VM. I am not expecting something more. Micro VM in any zone of your choice. Start it, and it has to be preemptible, and just leave it. Tomorrow at the same time, if you go look into the logs, you'll see, and if we are very fortunate, it can be leaving for 24 hours. If not, it can be taken back any time. And once it is taken back, right, you will see a log information which is going to be something like this. You can go to the log information and see, and it's going to be showing compute engine preempted by a specific user, system user, system@google.com. So that way you will come to know when it was created. And in this case, if you see this thing, so the screenshot, the VM was created at 56 in the midnight. Then in 4 minutes, it was taken back. 4 minutes only it was taken back. 4 minutes only it was taken back. It was very unfortunate scenario. So within a minute, if Google takes it back, you will not be charged. But after a minute, if Google takes it back, you need to pay for it. For example, in this case, 4 minutes. I'll be charged for 4 minutes, the compute and the vCPU, and that 80% discount is going to be applied to me. Previously, this was 10 minutes, meaning if a virtual machine is considered as preemptible and 10 minutes Google does not take it back. So within 10 minutes, if Google takes it back, it's totally free. But later they changed this pricing to 1 minute, basically. So if you want to see this, see it. It's going to be really an interesting one. Now, what I'll do is we will do the next part of the demonstration, which is provision a regular virtual machine. This one is going to be an important one because we do it only once in the entire training. We will only create Windows virtual machine only today, and none of the time we are going to do it again. Couple of reasons. One reason, I'm going to keep it a secret till I show the demonstration. One specific reason why we avoid this is usually Windows takes longer time to provision. The VM wise, Google is going to provision it in 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds only. But the Windows boot process itself is good enough. It takes a long amount of time for you to provision it. So in that training, we cannot wait that long. So that's the reason we don't do it. And there's one specific reason, even if nothing is running on, nothing, just the provisioning itself, provisioning it, enabling RDP, it's going to take around 1 minute or 2 minutes for you to have it fully running. It may show it as running, but you will not be able to RDP into it. the RDP would be not enabled till the entire process has been gone. It's basically how Windows has been built in. So nothing to do with GCP there. Okay, so that's the reason I usually don't do it. And there's one more main reason why I don't do it. Let me show you that. So let's go ahead and create a Windows virtual machine. I may not need this preemptible, folks. I'm just going to delete it. So let me create a Windows virtual machine. So I'll call this as batch 6 regular Windows. Put it in the same zone. Now, after this demo, right, I'm going to give you a small tip. If you're going to do provision resource in the command UI, and every time you are fixing the region to a specific zone and this thing, there's a small tip where you can save a couple of clicks. In command line, there's also an option where you can set it. I'm going to show you both the options. Okay, a small tip when you're working on your day-to-day projects and the customer is fixed because the GCP project is fixed, the customer is going to be fixed, and the customer's location is also going to be fixed. Why don't we save a couple of clicks? I'll show you that after I show you this demonstration. So N1 standard, and because it's Windows, right, give at least a decent compute option, folks. Micro VM is going to be little difficult, so give at least N1 standard. Give at least N1 standard. That's going to be better. If you give something like shared course, it's going to be a little difficult to. It's going to take longer time. And even when you log in a remote desktop, the experience is going to be so slow. The mouse movement is going to be so slow. So minimum, if you have something like N1 standard one, is going to be a good choice. So before I make it as a Windows, this is going to be my cost. The reason is default OS is always Debian 10 as of today. So previously it was Debian 9. Now they have made it as Debian 10. Now if I change this to a premium image licensed OS like Red Hat Windows, I will have a cost. So whenever you choose Windows, right, a small word of caution here. If the requirement is to do everything in a terminal, command prompt or PowerShell, then you can choose any stuffs which is like something like Windows 2000, the data center kind of an edition, basically. Server core is what you need to choose. If you want to continue running it in access everything via terminal. But if you want to have a desktop experience, I would strongly prefer you to use this one. So for example, Windows 2019, you get server core where everything is going to be in terminal. Server with desktop experience, if you turn it on, you will get a graphical user interface, like how a Windows server looks like, how your Windows 10's laptop looks like. It's the same thing as what you're going to get it. So prefer to use a server edition, basically. And one important thing which I have seen may not be a very selling point, a very good selling point, but a small info. The latest, as per my understanding, the latest OS, the server edition which which Microsoft provides is 2019. So I have selected it. And if I go look into the price, it is $33 or $34 per month, the usage, the license fee usage. Now, if I make it 2016, go back versions, 2016 desktop edition, desktop experience, it's going to be still the same, 2016. If I make it as 2012, 2012, 12 R2, if that is going to be the same price. So if there's a requirement, if the customer says we wanted to have, they already have an on-prem 2012 R2 and they want to move to GCP because they may, because in on-prem there could be a difference in the pricing, the license price, all those things. But when it comes to at least in GCP, all the server editions which you have is the same. But now you have to check with the application team, or the application team, they themselves should have done a work whether it is going to work fine in 2000, the higher versions of Windows servers. So if it can work, I would suggest to go with 2019. Price wise, there's no difference. Prefer to use the latest one because you're going to have more patches, free from vulnerabilities, all those things. It's going to be up to date. And 2012 definitely it's going to be end of life soon. 2008 is already done. There's no more 2008 available. It's end of life. So keep it latest. And GCP wise, it's going to not cost you. And if you want to reduce this cost also, work with your Microsoft account manager, work with the Google account manager so that you can bring your own license and reduce this part. That is also possible. Bring your own license, BYOL is also possible. Now we have a Windows 2012 option enabled, and I'm going to leave everything default. Let me click on create. And small observation, folks, whenever you create Windows, okay, if I just make it back to Debian, if it's Debian, right, the boot disk size is 10 GB. If I make it as Windows, right, small observation, not going to be something very huge, small observation. So if I choose Windows 2019, right, 19, the create button does not get enabled. The select option does not get enabled. Minimum it has to be 50. Minimum 50. So is what it indicates. The reason is the image itself is bulkier. Just to show you that it's bulkier image, the C drive needs to be a little bigger, basically. Let me just do this. And now let's go ahead and create it. And when I click on create, there's a surprise message waiting for us. And this message can be used in two different ways. So I get an error. The reason is nothing to do with the configuration which we did, but in your free trial, it shows Windows image are not included in free trial. To enable them, first enable the billing on your account. You still be able to apply free trial credits to eligible products and services. What it does is basically Windows are not available. So if you are using a free trial, 90 days free trial, you cannot create Windows virtual machine is what it indicates. Now this could be a quick check for you to do your in your free trial account also, whether you have activated, whether you have enabled billing or not. You can come to know by just doing the small activity, folks. I would strongly suggest you to do this. If you get a similar error message like this, it's an indication that you are still with free trial. Some people maybe by mistake would have clicked on that activate button or upgrade button. So if you have done that, I would say when you're coming very close, make sure you stop this project and delete the project, all those things, so that you will not be cross-charged with your credit card. So this is a small stuff which you can do. But I like to show you previously, at least an year back, Google used to provide VM creation options, Windows VM creation options, even in free trial. Recently only they have disabled it. So maybe they felt people are misusing it, so they just disabled it. Let me just show you one of my videos. What's going to be the difference there? The only difference is instead of SSH, it's going to be RDP. And when it comes to Linux, it's going to be usually your SSH keys. Basically, you use SSH keys, so you're going to have a private key, public key, and you're going to log in with that. When it comes to Windows, it's going to be your traditional username password. You can set a password when the VM is created. Let me just show you quickly a recorded video, so you can look into the YouTube also at a later point of time. It's not great importance, but just wanted to show you if you were to provision a Windows one. So if you know how to provision a Linux one, Windows is going to be easier. So if I search for Windows, and this video was created using the free trial only a year back basically. So if I just use Windows RDP, yeah, this one, 2019. So I was able to do it. It was okay, almost close to 1.5 years now. It was in uh, May. So let me just try to skip this video. Sorry, ad. So let me just show you the important stuffs. Uh, okay, once you have a Windows VM provisioned, it's going to show you the same kind of an entry. Let me just same kind of an entry, something like this. Instead of SSH, it's going to be RDP. That's the first thing. Now, once you have it right, the first step which you have to do is basically create a password. Download the remote desktop file so that you can RDP into it. Then set up a password. Set up a password and log in with it. And this entire process is going to take a little time, folks. So you cannot immediately RDP it. So this is what I mentioned, the slowness for it to completely finish the boot process, all the protocols enabled. So here I would have paused and played it, recorded it. That's the reason you don't see any delay. But in your real implementations, when you're doing it, it's not going to be so fast. And if you wanted to have your LDAP users, all those things, then your synchronization, connecting it is all required. Only your AD users wants to log in, you can do that. That is also possible, but that's out of scope in this training, so no need to discuss it. But once you have synchronized the data, it's going to be possible, Active Directory. So this is how it's going to be looking if you have selected a uh, uh, desktop experience, server with desktop experience. You're going to have a desktop experience and you can do it. And one important thing to note here is whether it is Debian, Ubuntu, CentOS, Red Hat, Windows OS, when you install it basically, right, you're going to have Cloud SDK installed by default in these images. It's already baked in, meaning from your virtual machine, if you want to run any gcloud commands, it's going to be always there. So we had seen this in our Linux machines. Even in Windows, it is going to be there. So gcloud, gsutil, everything is going to be there. So the reason for sharing this information is uh, if you have created any virtual machine, from that virtual machine, you want to copy some data or download some data from a storage bucket, you don't need to install an SDK. It's going to be always there. Remember, this could be somewhat related to an exam question related to here. The SDK is already installed. Okay, so that's something on Windows. I would strongly suggest you to do this Windows lab just to check whether you get an error. If you get an error, you're all good, meaning you have not upgraded your account to a paid user. You're still a trial user only. Okay, so that's something on Windows part, and we'll never ever going to do any Windows demo in the remaining part of the class. That's not important for us. Now let's go to the next part. Any questions still now, folks, on the two demos which we did, preemptible and regular Windows virtual machine? Any questions? All right. Okay. There's one question. Do we need to download the PEM key to take SSH via PuTTY? Vijay, I had shown you this last week itself, if I'm not wrong. So you can use this gcloud command. You can generate this thing. So one option, smarter way is you can use another SSH client where you generate using your PuTTY generator. Get the key, private key, public key, update your public key here. You can do all this regular process. That's one way. The smarter way is you click on this view gcloud command, copy this gcloud command, run it from your local machine. It's going to generate a private key, public key for you automatically. Easier way. So two options are possible, but Google does not give you an option directly to download a private key. It's not like your AWS or Azure. So you have to generate it either using a putty gen or a SSH key generator, then or you use this gcloud command. It's going to generate it for you automatically, but there's no ready-made private key available. Hope that answers your question, Vijay.
We need to enter this command in putty
In
generator.
your local, no, not in your putty gen. You have to, I guess I had shown this. So if you just copy this one, and if I go to my local machine, if I see, is there any SSH keys? I don't have anything. What I should do is I have to run it in my command prompt. So that's going to generate me the key automatically. So if I just show, you see at the back, nothing is there. If I use this, it's going to generate a key. If no private key, public key is there, it's going to generate me first, and using that, it's going to log in. So let's just wait. This is one way, or you can use a traditional way of using a putty generator or a SSH key generator. Generate the key, go and update the key in your virtual machine, and then log in. So let me just wait here to show you the stuff. Nothing is there still generated. You see nothing is there, so I'm going to generate. It's what it's going to use. Will be generated, will be executed to generate a key. So once it generates, you should see those private key, public key. You see this .ppk and the private key stuffs. Once you have everything, you should be able to log in. This is one way. Or if you want the traditional way of using putty generator or SSH key generator, you can also use that.
Okay, once it's generated, we directly use private key to connect, right? Or do I need to again go to the generator?
No. You see that I already logged into my putty.
Oh, it's automatically open.
Yes, it opens that. That's the smartness of this command. So otherwise, if you go the other way, you have to do all those circles.
Okay. So if enter the command, it automatically open the putty.
Correct. But make sure you have authenticated already to this project. So it's not just simply you copy that command, it's going to work it. So you have to make sure your project gcloud config list. If I do it, my cloud SDK should have been authenticated with the same user ID who has access to. Now I'm using that learn.gcp 2028 user. My account should be showing this. Then only I'm able to log in. That you have to do that. Prerequisite.
Oh.
Authenticated.
Okay.
You're already authenticated. Okay. Now let's go to the next part, folks, called as marketplace. This is more like your Play Store, App Store. If you have an app, want to install an app on your phone, you go and do it, right? It is something similar where you don't want to install a vanilla operating system. Vanilla is plain operating system. Then on top of it, you install some software. For example, if you come from a database background and you want to have IBM DB2 database to be running on virtual machine, what you can do usually is there are two options. You provision a virtual machine, Windows or Linux, based on what is your requirement with a specific configuration. Then go to IBM website, download DB2 trial version, paid version, whatever it is, go and install it. So this is one way, very straightforward way. The second option is look for, is there any pre-cooked images or deployments available so that you can save your time. So a list of software stack, if it's already built in, just use it. Just go and click and you should be able to provision. If you want to do that, marketplace is a good choice there. So I would always prefer to use marketplace heavily. The reason is I spend less time on installation. So as a cloud architect, you should not spend time installing a specific software. The more focus should be is whether you can derive insights out of it, get a business insights out of the specific requirement. So that should be your focus. So if they say you want to install some specific component, And if you have never worked on that component, just go to your marketplace, search whether that component is available. For example, I want to install MongoDB, for example, or let me take MongoDB first and I'll go to IBM DB2 later. MongoDB, I want to install it on a virtual machine. If you have worked on MongoDB extensively, it's basically a NoSQL database. For folks who have not heard of this, it's a database. So now if you wanted to make it run on a virtual machine, there are two ways. Install a virtual machine, vanilla operating system, then go download the software, MongoDB software, and install it. This is option number one. Definitely you will have to fix your dependencies. Maybe that MongoDB may expect some components before, so you have to install all those things. Never spend time on that. Better than that, just go to your, click on this hamburger menu. You can go to this marketplace. This is one option. Or if you are already in a virtual machine screen, at the bottom you will have something called as marketplace. So what is the difference between that marketplace and the marketplace in this? It's only one simple thing. Let me just show you what's going to be that. So it's going to put a filter. Basically what and all you can install it on a virtual machine is what it's going to show. So there's going to be a filter put on virtual machines. So there are n number of stuffs which you can install. For example, MongoDB. So if I just MongoDB, so I get these stuffs ready-made. So if I go with, I usually prefer to use Google Click to deploy. This is from Google itself, and even partners can also provide. Um, uh, Approved partners from Google, they can also provide their one-click deployments into here, so that they will also can make revenue out of it. But Google partners can only contribute here. If you are planning to create some software and you want to make it available in Google marketplace, you cannot do it. You have to be a partner. So if you take Play Store, App Store, individuals can contribute by some verification process, but in Google's marketplace you cannot do it. Make sure you have to be a partner. So let me click on this, folks. Let me click on this MongoDB, and what's going to show here is what happened. It should have shown a different screen. Okay, so it comes to this. So NoSQL database. So what's going to happen is, whenever you look into this, whenever you see an option exists, don't be in a hurry to launch it. Basically, it's going to create a virtual machine, and on top of that virtual machine, the specific software is going to be installed. So you don't need to worry about any dependencies. They are going to create it for you. At the end, they are going to give you, this is the credentials, just log in. Simple, straightforward one. So, but before using any marketplace, right, a small word of caution. Look at this pricing, folks. Look at the pricing of your this thing. The price which you should be looking is there any usage fee? Is there any usage fee? It should be preferred to be zero. If you are exploring something, definitely you have to pay the infrastructure cost. That is okay. But the usage fee should be free as much as possible, so that you don't incur too much of cost. But if it's some proprietary software something, then you have to definitely incur a usage fee for it also. But prefer to do this one, so that you are only going to pay a infrastructure cost. Smartness there, that's it. So it's going to show you need two VMs with this much configuration. It's going to be around 30,000 Indian rupee. Now when you are deploying it, you can definitely change this setting if you want. So if I click on launch, it goes to a screen where it looks like similar to your virtual machine screen, where you can mention what is the machine type, all those things, and click on deploy. So this is where your marketplace comes handy. So software stack, a specific software stacks you want to deploy it quickly, you can go and do this. The only thing is that that product should be available in the marketplace. That's it. So People who have worked on MongoDB, they may have seen this. The stuff. We are already, what is the question? We already have VM. Why it is again asking, no, this, we are not deploying it on an existing VM, Kumar. We are deploying it on a new VM. We are deploying it on a new VM, not on that existing VM. It has to be a new, brand new VM. You cannot install it on an existing VM. The marketplace does not provide you that an option, such an option. It should be new, basically. So you can change the machine type if you want. So that way it is not going to be $30, sorry, 30,000 Indian rupee. It can be reduced. So once you customize it based on your requirement, go ahead and click on deploy. It's going to deploy a MongoDB instance, and then you can go and start using it. The whole important stuff is you're not spending time on installation, not spending any time on installation. So I have a real story here. So let me just open up my LinkedIn profile. Something on marketplace. So something on an interview question, slightly interesting one. And this was shared by a Googler who is a trainer actually. So let me search for his name. I usually share this usually. There's one more question. By the time it comes up, do we so we have all the software baked into the boot disk. Boot disk is going to be there. What is the image? It's going to be usually, they will mention what kind of image they are going to use: Debian, Ubuntu, Windows, all those things, plus the software stack. On top of it, the software stack is going to be there. How to install app in any app, how to install database and any app in my VM. You provision a virtual machine and you go and install, normally log in and install. How you install normally a software, that's how you install it, Mangesh, basically. If you don't want to install it, yeah, MongoDB is baked in, yes. So they have baked in into that, and that's how you should be able to get it, basically. So if I just search for Jason Baker, just wanted to give you not Jason, this not just Jason Baker. Okay, Jason. Oh, it's not showing. He's a Google trainer. Let me search for this vice president. Maybe, I'm not sure whether that.
Jason's spelling is wrong. His parents named him
uh,
Jesson or something. He told me
JE.
that. I took the class.
Okay. Jason. Okay, Jason.
Yeah, he was
Not Jason.
complaining
Okay,
about it.
Jason.
Yeah, there's only 2 Jason Barker in the world. This is the guy. You got it.
Okay, this guy. Okay, so this is the person. So there
He's
was
excellent.
usually yeah, I know. Yeah, true. So this person, right? He's an authorized trainer in GCP. There was one of the trainings, which was a free training, which I attended in Singapore, Google Submit. So a 1 day or a half a day training, and he shared his own experience, how he joined Google, all those things. And he, if you just look into his LinkedIn profile, he's totally from an infrastructure background. So he's totally from an infrastructure background. But one of the question to him during the interview was to provision a WordPress application and have a small content there. Now this person totally from infrastructure background, and he needs to show, and he has never installed any software. If you ask him to install servers, provision servers, blades, the network, he could have done it. But this was a WordPress. So what Jason Baker's response was to use marketplace. He shared this information in the training itself. So what he did, and it was more of an one of the rounds in interview rounds in Google is going to be sometimes like a interaction, one-on-one interaction or whiteboarding. In that, he told just use a marketplace, go to marketplace and you search for basically like WordPress, you'll get it, install it, and all the details are going to be there. So quickly you can do it. So the whole reason of sharing this information is you can also install WordPress by following a WordPress documentation. Install a virtual machine, install MySQL database, install PHP, all those things. Instead of that, Jason was little smarter. What he did was he just went to marketplace WordPress. He got this WordPress based on which OS they need to install. He choose that and install it. One-click deployment. Everything was there. It's just you log into that WordPress website and create a content. So this is to show the smartness, folks. There's only to show the smartness there, where you can spend less time on installation, avoid less time on installation as much as possible. So the focus should be more on how components should be connected, how business can be benefited from it. Okay, so that's your marketplace. If you want, you can go and try to deploy a MongoDB or anything. It's going to work. So it's a straightforward one, not so difficult. So I'm just going to leave it for you to install it and try it out. Select it of your choice. Now, coming to the last example, in marketplace, it's not an ocean. Not everything is going to be there. For example, if you are from IBM DB2 background, IBM DB2, if I search it, I may not get any results. Now, in this case, you cannot do anything. You have to install a OS, a VM of your choice, then download the software and do it. Sometimes you are going to get an existing image. If it's not there, you have to build it yourself, basically. So the reason for sharing this information is when you are capturing the requirements, right, you will know what kind of software needs to be installed. So check for it. So whether such an image exists or not. LAMP, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. Whether such a software stack exists. If it is existing, leverage it. Leverage it. Instead of you putting a line item like to install this software, I need 3 hours, 4 hours. You can reduce it, basically. This is your marketplace. Now, there is a word which you need to remember, cloud launcher. Previously, this product was called as cloud launcher. Now, if you look into any older articles, 2 years, 3 years back kind of an article, by any chance, if you look into any blogs or any videos, they would have mentioned it as cloud launcher. So just wanted to be you to be aware that previously it was called as cloud launcher, which was little difficult for many people to understand, because AWS, Azure, most of the cloud providers were using this standard name called as marketplace. So I have heard that AWS marketplace, you have lots of softwares. Same is what Google is trying to do it, basically to create uh, an ecosystem of softwares, basically. So, and to be very frank, when I took my first certification, cloud architect certification, at that time itself, the name was called as marketplace. But I got a question which was based on cloud launcher. It was not updated. So who knows if that specific question which I had got, you're also going to get it, and somebody has not updated the question bank. If you see something like cloud launcher, you should not be taken back, but you should be aware that it is nothing but a marketplace. It is nothing but same as marketplace. It's an older name. That's it. So that's the fourth demo which I wanted to show. The last one, the most interesting one, is resize our VM's boot disk. So without restart. I'm not very sure whether this is possible in other cloud or even on a on-premise. Let's keep that aside. If it's possible, good. But let's see how we can create something like this in GCP. We have access to GCP. We can definitely do it. So let's resize the boot disk. The same thing applies to a data disk also. Irrespective of what kind of disk, you can resize it. Now, why do you want to resize it? The whole under concept here is never create a disk which is very high. So keep it minimal based on the requirement, leave it. And if need arises it, you can go and change it, and you don't need to have a downtime. So you don't need to have a downtime. So definitely, because it is cloud, right, as much as possible, leverage these kind of features. Don't over provision resources. In on-prem, some things cannot be done on the fly, so people over provision it, but don't do the same mistake in cloud. So have the minimum requirement, what is required to run an application or a database, keep it. And once it reaches the threshold, you go and increase it, and it's going to be zero downtime. That's what we are going to see. So resize VM's boot disk without a restart. And this is an important one. There are a couple of commands which could be important from the exam perspective. We'll also update that in our cheat sheet. So what we are going to do is go back to our virtual machine. Go back to our virtual machine. We'll do this demo and then take a break, folks. We already have one virtual machine, if I'm not wrong. We'll use that same virtual machine itself for our demonstration purpose. And I'm going to use heavily a documentation. No commands in the cheat sheet, but I'm going to show how to use documentation also. So it's going to be really difficult to put everything in the cheat sheet, but I'll show you how I can have use my cheat sheet, my documentation, GCP's documentation to do this. So I'm just SSHing into it. By the time it SSHs, if I just go to my disk, that's going to be showing my disk information. What is the size, all those information it's going to show me. Let's wait for it to show up. It was 10 GB. If I'm 10 GB was the default one, so it shows that. And the name of the disk is always going to be the same as your name of your virtual machine. Standard persistent disk, the cheapest one, which you can get $0.44 per month. So, and it shows currently it is used by this virtual machine. 10 GB is the size. You want to verify that same, you can do that in your virtual machine also by running this command df-h. It's going to show that very close. So this is your, it's mounted on slash, and it's going to be 9.7. So sometimes it does not show you the full stuff. So 9.7, this is what it shows, of which 1.4 GB is used maybe for your boot, for your Debian OS, and for our Apache web server, some updates we did it, so it has been consumed. Remaining 7.8 GB is available. Now just pretend for now it is almost coming very close. 8 GB or 9 GB is already full. You need to resize it, and you don't need to down the virtual machine, and you cannot down the virtual machine. It's very critical. How do you do it? Is very simple. With a couple of Linux commands we can do it. So first of all, let's try to increase the disk size in our console. First of all, let me just make this as 10 GB. Okay, so if I just go edit this virtual machine, I can do the same thing in command line. If you want, I can show you the command line equivalent also in a minute. Edit the size. Okay, so currently the size is 10, and keep an eye on this input output operations, folks. The more the size you give, more would be your IOPS, more would be your better would be your throughput. So now if I make it as 100, you see that it increases. If I make it as a terabyte, it increases. More you give, more would be your IOPS, better would be your IOPS, better would be your throughput. So this is a standard thing, nothing specific to GCP. Now I cannot have 1 terabyte. From 10, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it as 15, folks. Only 5 GB I'm going to increase it. That's it. 5 GB, done. First step, increase the size. It's all good. Now let's go ahead and see whether it's going to reflect it or not. People coming from database background, sorry, storage background, hold on to a few more minutes. it may look very basic for you people, but for others to bring it up to them to speed, so I'm just going through a little slower steps. So you see 15 GB allocated. Awesome. Now let me go. The VM is still up. Let me run this command df-h. It's not going to show that the size has been increased. It is the same thing which you see here. Now what you will definitely do is you will look for some documentation. How do I do it? Why it's not reflecting? So one such documentation which you can see is resize your disk. So just go to the official documentation, search for something like resize disk. You'll get a very nice documentation, and there's a new feature in the documentation which Google has created. We are going to use that only. So add and resize zonal persistent disk. It's attached to a zone only, so that's the reason it's a zonal persistent disk. So in this documentation, I have an option called as resize a zonal persistent disk. So if I click on this, it gives me, you can resize a zonal persistent disk when your instance requires more storage. So everything is mentioned here. Now the first part is you have to increase the disk size. Click on the disk, edit, change it. If you want to get the gcloud command of it, it is this command, gcloud compute disk resize, the disk name and the size of your choice, basically. And you can go up to 2 terabytes only per disk. That's the limit. Now the next part is, if it's a Linux machine, for Windows also you can do it. If it's Windows, is going to be super easy. I have that video in the channel itself. You can just search for it. The video which I showed, that was basically that one only. When it comes to Linux, right, it has to be little difficult. You have to run some specific commands. First we ran df-h. It gave us the size, and you can also use this ls block. It's going to show what is the total disk size, what has been mounted. So we ran df-h. It is of no, it was showing it has not been increased. But if I run ls block, if I use ls block, it's going to show basically the disk 15 GB is there. It's allocated, but it's not formatted and mounted. That's what it indicates. 15 GB is reflecting here. So now what I'm going to do is basically keep this as is command for our future reference. Follow the documentation. Follow the documentation to do a small demonstration. So for doing this increase in size, right, I have to install a couple of utilities. If it's a Debian operating system, I have to install something called as grow partition, which is available in this utility. Let me just copy it. So before that, let me make sure I update my packages. So Mangesh, you asked, right, how do I install it? This is how you install components in your virtual machine of your choice. Now let me just do this. So back to the same step. Now I have installed it, and if it's a different OS, they have a documentation for it. So Debian, Ubuntu, all those things, same. Guest, cloud, guest, util should work. The next part is there's a utility which increases my partition in Linux. So this is what I was mentioning, a nice cool documentation which Google has created. Now this was a standard command, I copy pasted, it worked. Sometimes it could be something very specific which you wanted to do. So what is your device ID? If you want to know the device ID, so it is going to be, if you put ls block, the device ID, the device name is SDA. So this is equivalent to your C drive, D drive kind of a stuff in your Linux. So SDA, that's my device ID, and my partition number. This is the one. Partition number is 1 as the indication. So just click on that. It becomes, and you type it. Now this is my command. So there's also a small example here. What is your partition ID? How do you find it out? Now I have done this. Now what's the beauty of this command? If there is any command below which is going to require a partition ID, the device name, it is going to be updated for us automatically. So I just need to now edit it once, copy paste it. That's it. Grow my partition. So is what I'm going to do now. So let me make sure I keep this command handy. Grow the partition. Done. So there's a space. Just wanted to make sure that there's a space there. So that's the first thing. Once you have done it, let me see whether it has come up. It's not going to come up. It's still showing the same thing. The reason is you have to run one more Linux command, which is called as extend your file system. So resize your file system. So here, because I edited it, the device ID and partition ID, the command is already ready for me. I just need to copy it, paste it. It's going to now resize my file system. Now if I do df minus h, you should see the change, folks. You see this? Previously it was 9.7, now it is 15 GB. Simple. We were able to increase or expand our disk without any downtime, and we are doing it on the virtual machine itself. And 2 commands or 3 commands which is going to help, at least in Linux, is basically your grow partition, resize your file system, and a common utility to have that. So these are going to help you out. And the reason for showing you this entire demo is there was a question which I had seen on this part. So sometimes some exposure on Linux is expected, was what I understood when I saw this kind of a question. So resize to file system is an important one. So instead of me explaining this could be important from the exam, I showed you a small demonstration and also use case, a real use case. You can resize your file system or your disk basically. So for our reference, this thing, let's put this in our cheat sheet so that it's going to be helpful. So if I just go to my cheat sheet, so Jason, so this one, actually it's not resize, expand. I'll show you why. Expand disk without zero downtime. This is the first command. The second command is this one to increase the partition. The third command is resize your file system, which is going to give me that stuff. So important. And you can also think of this, a possibility is if there is a virtual machine and it's having a database running and it is having some performance issues, and you cannot shut down the virtual machine. Basically, at least to some extent, if you want to improve the performance, right, give it more some storage, increase the storage. Sometimes if you get more storage, right, there's a possibility that the system can work slightly better. So in this case, this kind of features could be used, folks. With zero downtime, you expand your disk. Why I'm saying expand is the disk can only be expanded, cannot be shrunk. So now for a short time, you wanted 5 GB extra, you added it. Now you go and delete your data in your virtual machine. It has come back to less than 5 GB. Now, if you feel, can I reduce my storage back to 10? Not possible. It's not possible. So it is like our age. Age cannot be reduced. So if you are in X is your age, it can be X plus 1. It cannot be X minus 1 at any point of time. So unless we go in time machines or anything. So it's like our age, the size of your boot disk cannot be shrunk. So it can be only expanded. So this is one important reason why I mentioned start always small. Now, if you keep it 200, for example, in the beginning, now you realize it later, you cannot even, you're not using this 200 GB fully, you cannot shrunk it. You can only expand it. So please start always with small storage and then go for it. So And you'll see this throughout the class, the storage cannot be shrunk. Okay, so hope this concept is clear, folks. Let me add this in my implementation tip so that when you're designing it, always have the disk size, start the disk, have smaller, what should I put it as? Smaller or so I have to word it very well. Okay, disks cannot be shrinked. So always have a smaller size and expand uh, based on need, based on your requirement. Right, so that's something which I wanted to share, and again wanted to show you how you can leverage documentation. These are some cool features in the documentation which is recently added. So just edit it once, copy paste your stuff to the entire thing. So previously people used to copy it into a notepad, edit, change it there and do it. Now it's inline editing. Very cool feature. I have not seen it like this anywhere else, at least. So it's a very cool feature. So let's stop it here, folks. I guess there's a question. Let me take it up. There's one question. Do we need to add install? Yeah, all the commands are required, folks. Add install. So grow partition is going to have the gsutil stuff inbuilt. Okay, let me just look into the documentation 1 minute. So this one is for CentOS. This one is for Debian. So ours is Debian, so that's the reason I use this one, not CentOS part. Okay, so that's one thing. The next question is if it's a zonal persistent disk and it's replicated the disk to multiple, same step needs to be followed. In GCP, right, you can have so if it's going to be a regional persistent disk, basically you're going to have it in 2. So when you do this, it's going to automatically, I have never tried it, it's going to increase it there, or yeah, it's going to increase. Now thing is that it's going to increase automatically in your increase it in your dual zones, basically. So we'll talk about more about storage maybe after we come back, Vijay. So where you can have storage replicated across 2 zones. If you change it, both the zones it's going to impact. Both the zones it's going to impact, and you should be able to change it. It's going to, you need to follow the same steps, basically. Yes. There's one more question. But always there's a downside of having the size of a smaller tools. But always there is a downside. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you start with 10 GB, Anil Kumar. So you can start with what is your requirement, but don't over provision it. So if your requirement is only like 100 GB, so but because from on-prem to GCP are migrating it, in on-prem they are having 300 GB, don't start with 300 GB. Start with what is required, and when you want, you can increase it. So minimum 200 GB if you have, you'll never have any performance impact, basically. So that is what I'm trying to convey here. So in our demonstration, we just did because we did not want to overutilize our credit points, basically. So it depends on the purpose. It depends on the purpose, totally agree, but don't over provision it. Basically, that was a key part here. All right.
Mahesh, I just want to know one thing.
Yeah.
The thing which you have demonstrated via CLI, we can do it via UI also. Means you were doing, but I didn't get that actually. There is a two-way that
Which,
we can include the growth petition via user interface can be done it. Like you were showing increase and decrease via UI.
Okay. So Okay, so what you can do only in the UI is increase the disk size, Vivek, from 10 to 15. That is the only part you can do it. Remaining part, installing those grow partition utility, then installing, doing that rum command, you have to do it in the terminal only. It's Linux, so you have to do it in the terminal only. If it's Windows, yes, you will have a graphical user interface where you can go to your disk management and increase it. This
But
part, the increasing part, you have to do it in the command line only.
no, so actually, just means I was a bit confused. Means you can increase from UI after machine is started and running, or we can do any time. Means because the CLI part I understood, but I'm not able to summarize. Means what is the difference from CLI and from UI? How, what is the difference actually? You said, you told me that I can increase the disk size. The same thing I
So
did it
see,
from
first of
CLI.
all, so you can increase this disk size from three options.
Okay,
Using command
the
line.
disk
Hold on,
size
hold on,
that
hold
is
on.
the
I understood
partition.
it.
Ah,
Hold on. Hold on. So you can do it via console. That's what I did it. Now, if you want to increase the size via command line, you have an option. I showed you that. You can do the same thing via REST API also. But this is the first part of the demonstration only. So if you just increase the size, it's not going to reflect in your virtual machine. To reflect those changes, you have to do those two commands which I showed you: grow partition and resize to file fs. So those two are important. Without that, whatever you do in the change here in the console or via command line, it's not going to reflect in your virtual machine. It's basically changing your disk. Make sure you update your grow your partition and make it available there. To make
okay, I
the
got it.
change available, you have to do those Linux commands. Now, because
Yeah.
we chose Linux, we have to do it in command line only. If you have done the same thing via for a Windows machine, you would have had a graphical user interface, meaning first increase the size, then go to that specific virtual machine and do those necessary changes. That is the thing.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Means in case
Yeah.
I want to grow another partition, I just need to the device ID, like
Yes.
SDA1, SDA2,
Yes.
SDA2. I got it.
Correct. So in
Uh,
Windows, it's going to be C, D, E kind of stuff. Yeah, there was one more question.
yeah, mine's Mangesh here. Actually, regarding that marketplace, right? So in marketplace, we'll have only the softwares, right? Like IBM DB2, MongoDB. So from there, we can just launch. But
Yeah.
if I need to interact with my application, right? Suppose my virtual machine, then that application or software has to be installed on my virtual machine, right?
Now this is going to install on your virtual machine only, Mangesh. So you will not have anything. So assume you have nothing in your VM. So you want a MongoDB. So
Mm-hmm.
you go and launch it. So what is going to happen is you are going to have one virtual machine with MongoDB instance running. Now you have a web application which needs to interact. Then you get the credentials of your MongoDB, the IP, username, password. Then you go and do call it basically.
Okay, I mean, you mean to say, I mean, if I launch any
It's going to
database
install it on a
application.
virtual machine.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's on a
Thanks.
virtual
I
machine.
didn't. Yeah,
It's
okay.
like your virtual machine is like your phone. You click on a app, it gets installed on your app. That's what it's going to
Okay.
happen. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So that is something, I guess I have answered the stuff. Let's take a 10 minutes break, folks. Once we come back, I guess all the demos are done. So once we come back, we will explore some real-time use cases. So there, okay. So take a break and come back. So take a break and come back, folks.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, before the break, we saw a few of these demos, which helped us to understand some of the concepts. Now, with the concept which we have learned, we'll try to see some real scenarios, some real-time scenarios, and something which I have seen in my experience. I've tried to put it, and we'll try to address them and we'll try to address them in a very smart way. So that's the key part here. The first requirement is customer wanted to increase the machine type from F1 micro to G1 small. So that's the first requirement. And let's use the same application which we ran, the Apache web server. This is just pretend as if this is your application, folks. Okay, some e-commerce website or something, pretend as if like that. And the machine type is F1 micro. Now you have done it for a customer. Now the customer says the website is good, there's more hits coming, but this F1 micro is not enough for me. I have to increase it to at least the next level, which is G1 small, is what the customer says. Now you have to make it little smarter. One, the worst option, and also for the entire all these three all the different real-time scenarios which we are going to see, pretend as if to install this software on this virtual machine takes, to configure, to make it run all those things, it's going to take around 5 days. That's a small assumption which we are going to do. It's going to take 5 days to do all those things. We wanted to be smarter. By becoming smarter, we are going to see some better solutions there. Okay, so the first requirement, if I just swap, wants to increase the machine type from F1 micro to G1 small. Let's just see whether we can do it. The worst option is go ahead and spend 5 more days, create a virtual machine with a G1 small and do it. But is there any better way is what we are going to try. Okay, so first let me just click on this virtual machine. Click. Once the screen comes up, I'll click on the edit. So I'm just trying to see whether I can edit the machine type. Basically the question is on machine type. So let's try to click on edit. So when I click on edit, let me see if the virtual machine is running. There's a green tick. It is an indication that the system is running. If the system is running, what and all I can change it basically. So when it comes to machine type, it is very clearly saying you must stop the VM to edit the to edit the machine type is what it indicates. So it's a very clear indication. I have to stop it. So if I stop it, there's a possibility is what it indicates to me. So which is what was a solution. We'll try to do this and show you. So stop and edit the machine type and start it. Definitely you can fulfill this requirement, meaning I don't need to spend 5 more days. A smart way is shut down and do it. So, but the only drawback of this one is there's a downtime. I am not aware whether any other cloud provider provides you this capability where you can change the machine type on the fly. Somebody told me in Azure it is possible. I've never seen it. At least in GCP it is not possible. So you have to have a downtime if you were to change the machine type. Okay, somebody told me it is possible. Okay, not it's not possible. Okay, somebody told me, so I was not aware. It was from it was just a word of mouth there. So somebody told me if it's not possible, okay, so then it's something good to know. None of the cloud providers can do it. That's a good one. So before we go and stop it, right, let's just quickly explore what and all I can do if I just edit the virtual machine. So I can enable serial port basically. So what is a serial port basically? If you have, so okay, so if you have, okay, hope that message which Anil Kumar has put, it is to everyone. It's an information. Okay, Anil, okay, I'm just going to put it on behalf of Anil here to everyone. It's a nice information which Anil has put. To everyone. Thanks, Anil, for that info. What is serial port? Say, for example, whenever you have any startup script, if the startup script is not working properly, right? Because the startup script usually runs once the system is fully up and running. So if you want to see what was the error, you can turn on the serial port. So in very, very simple terms, the serial port is nothing but if you have ever provisioned a Linux virtual machine on your laptop, when you start the virtual machine, right, you'll see lots of information, different run levels, what is happening, all those things, it's going to show it in a very textual manner. All those things you can see it if you just log into your serial port. So this is going to be really helpful if you want to troubleshoot any startup scripts, basically, even your shutdown scripts. So if you cannot see the virtual machine console, you want to see it, this is where it's going to be helpful, and you can turn it on by just a click of a button and without stopping the VM. So that's the first feature which you can do without stopping the VM. Machine type, it is very clearly mentioned, you cannot stop it, you cannot change it without stopping it. That's fine. Then what else I can change? The zone cannot be changed. You must stop the VM to edit the minimum node CPU. So meaning how much vCPU memory you want is what it's saying, but zone cannot be changed. I'll show you till the end. Zone cannot be changed easily. From Singapore A to Singapore B, or from Singapore to Mumbai, or Singapore to Taiwan, I cannot do that. Basically the servers, this virtual machine is in a data center. How can I move from one data center to another data center without any extra work? So that is not possible. Labels, is it possible to add a new label? Yes, it is possible to add a new label even if the virtual machine is running. So it's just a small metadata which you're trying to add, right? Info. So that should be fine. So owner, batch 6 team, I can add it. I can add it very easily. Now networking, it's going to show you cannot change it. It shows you must stop the VM to edit the network subnetwork internal IP address. So again, it's a clear indication stopping the VM is required. So that's one thing. Firewall rules, if you forget to turn off and turn on firewall rules, you can do it. So you add that, it's going to be a new network tag. So we'll talk about network tags more in our networking class. So for now, you can turn on and turn off firewall rules on the fly whenever, even if the VM is running, is what it indicates. So I can remove, add all those things. That's one thing. Delete protection, enable delete protection. We saw you can just edit, you can do it even if the VM is running. That is possible. Now, if I want to do a small setting where I want to retain my disk, boot disk, even if I delete the VM, I just click on edit and just do this change. So even if I go and delete my VM, my disk is going to be retained. So this is one setting which you can do by just editing it. No need of a downtime. I'm just going to leave that as default. That's something possible. Then I can add a new disk. Even if the virtual machine is running, I can just go add a new disk. It's going to reflect. That is possible. So you don't need a downtime there. So or shut down the virtual machine. So that's another option which is possible. Then my availability policy, basically my availability policy, I can change my availability possibilities, availability policies. It is possible, but preemptible, I cannot change it. It is fixed. It is fixed. But it is saying to stop the VM and add and detach. Where? For the disk, Mangesh, is it for the disk which you're saying? You must stop the VM to attach or detach a boot disk. Boot disk, attach or delete attach a new disk, boot disk, or detach it. I cannot delete it. That's what it's saying. But I can add a new data disk. I can add a new data disk, Mangesh, not the boot disk, I am saying. So boot disk, you can detach it only when you stop it. Data disk, I can add multiple data disks. Preemptibility cannot be changed. Please remember it. Preemptibility cannot be changed. You want to update your startup script? You can. You can add a new software you want to install. Something like you want to install Git. You can do that. So that is possible. Now you want to update your SSH keys. Go ahead and update it. Go and update it. That is possible. Service account, we had seen it in our service account class itself. IAM, you cannot change it. It is very clearly, it mentions you must stop the VM to do it. Same is the case with your access scope. So these are the stuffs which you can edit even if the VM is up and running. So if it's running, Basically your labels, firewall rules, firewall rules, add disk. These are all possible. Startup script, these are all possible, which you can do even if the VM is running. Save it. Let's see whether it's reflecting. Things which can be done even if the VM is running. Now let's see whether it's really reflecting. Labels, we change it, then updated as startup script. Let's see whether it's going to reflect. I have logged into this VM. No, I have not logged in. It's saving. Let's just give a minute for it to show. And the VM would be still running, folks. Behind the scene, it's still running. So some changes are going to happen behind the scenes. So it's not going to impact the downtime of the system. So it is done. Now the first thing which I wanted to see is my labels, whether it's reflecting or not. Let me just see it. Let me just refresh it. More. Batch owner, batch 6 is what we mentioned. It is reflecting. Good. Now if I just SSH into it, we had installed Git, right? We had installed Git. Let me see whether that is reflecting or not. So if I type git -- version, it should show me if it has installed, but it shows it's not installed. So what it indicates basically is you have updated your startup script, but it's not reflecting. For it to reflect, right? If it's not reflecting, the good place to debug it is start your serial console. Just let's enable serial console and see whether Git has been installed or not. And to install it, what should we do? We can get some idea there. So what I will do is again go ahead, edit the virtual machine, only turn on my serial console port. We did not enable it. Let's enable it. So edit. So I'm just going to enable serial, this thing. Enable connecting to serial ports. So let's wait for that to come up. All right, it is updated. Now I can just click on connect to serial console. It's going to show me what's happening when the system starts up, all those things. I can see it here in the serial console. This is going to be really helpful for debugging any startup scripts. So in the exam, if you get something on startup script not working fine, all those things, how do I debug? Simple. Just enable your serial console. You should be able to see it. Now, there's no information further here. So this is what it's going to show. Login with, should I enter my, can I log in as, okay. I have to log in, huh? I never tried it. Okay, let me just try with what user? Oh, it does not, okay, 1 minute folks. Okay, no need to log in, but I'll just show you how I can see whether the log information gets updated. No need of a login. What I will do is I'll just go back. I'll just do this button. I'll just do a reset. So when I click on reset, what is going to happen is basically like our laptop where it resets everything, cleans off the memory and comes up. So that's what is going to happen. So if I do a reset, my startup script is going to get updated. So let me just reset and see what's going to log here. You see this log information? Let's see. You see this, folks. These are all the logs which you can see. It looks as if like you're in front of the system and there's a startup script which has got executed. So you see unpacking Git. My startup script has now executed. So this is where the serial console port is going to be really helpful. Now everything is good. Now I can just connect back because I've done a reset. So I just need to connect back. Once I connect back, what I'm going to see is the git command is going to be helpful. So the question was different, but what we are exploring is different. So machine type needs to be changed. We understood that machine type cannot be changed without stopping, but we were exploring what can be changed without stopping. So is this part clear, folks? Serial port. Now what we understood is serial console port. Labels can be updated, new disk can be added, firewall rules can be enabled, startup script can be enabled or updated, and how to see the stuff also we saw it using serial console. So hope this is clear. Now to achieve the requirement which the customer has given, you need to shut down the VM. That's very clear. We have to shut down the VM, then only we can change the machine type. So let's go ahead and stop it. When you stop it, it's going to be called as terminated state. So it's going to change the state from running to stopped, and from stopped it's going to go to terminated state. So let's wait for it to get terminated. Then we will go and change the machine type. And also keep a note on the IP address, folks. It is ending with 132. When I stop it, right, the external IP address is ephemeral. It's going to go off. It's going to go off. So I can just make a note of it. Just click on this. Keep it there so that I will know the IP. So now the IP is gone. External IP address is taken back. Disk is there. vCPU memory are all taken. Now I wanted to change the machine type. Let's just go and change it. By stopping it, definitely we can change it is what we have seen by at least from those information. Let's verify whether we can do it or not. There's one question. What is the difference between reset versus restart? Do we have a restart option by any chance? Did not get exactly the reset will do. A hard boot or only memory cache will be okay. Basically, it's like your reset. The system will not get stopped. The system is going to be running basically. Restart, you need to stop, then start. So that's so when you do restart, right? It goes to a terminated state first, then it comes back to running state. But when you are doing reset, right, the system will never shut down. It's going to be still running, only the memory is all wiped off, clean. So if something is really hanged, you do usually reset, right? That is the key part here. So the system is going to still running basically. Now let me click on edit and see whether can I do. Now things which you can edit, even if the virtual machine is running, is going to be still editable even if you stop it. There's no big deal in it, so we are not going to look into it because that is possible when the system is running itself. Let's focus on what can be edited when the system is stopped. Machine type. Previously it was a read-only field, right? Now you can edit it. What was the requirement? Change it to G1 small because there is too much of load, more traffic is coming. The customer wants us to increase the machine type. We are increasing it. So good. What else you can do it? You can do something with the display, the secondary display, which is for recording all those things. You can turn it on. Enable CPU overcommit. This is for sole tenant. We cannot leverage that in free trial. Just leave it. We can do it is what it indicates. Zone. Let's just look into the zone, folks. Where is zone? You see this? Zone is still read only. You cannot change the zone of an existing virtual machine and change it. That's not possible. Straightforward, it's not possible. Labels possible. I'm not going to explore it. Network, since we have not explored much about network, but network can be changed. You can change it to a different network. So since we have only one network, we don't have any other option to change it. But when we look into the networking, we'll come to know that networking details can be changed. The VPC, what is a subnetwork, what is the range. So when you change your network, your internal IP address is also going to get changed. So networking things can be possible to change. That's one thing. Then, as usual, Mangesh was asking this. So you want to detach this, you don't want this disk, you want to attach some other disk, you can do it. The boot disk, you have this option of delete. I can just click on delete, it's going to go off if you want. Attach a new one, you can do it. That is possible. Even if you stop the virtual machine, you cannot change a regular VM into preemptible VM and vice versa. That's what it indicates very clearly. It's just a read-only field. The last one, our service account. You like to change the service account? Change it. You can change it. It's going to work, but you need to stop it. That's a key part. Let me just save it. Now you would have got an idea what can change when you stop it, what cannot change if you don't stop it. Machine type is something which can be changed, but let's verify whether it's really coming or not. So can we replace an existing boot disk to any other disk? Possible. If you have a disk already, you can just come and change it. It's possible. So it's going to attach to the same disk, to the same VM which you are having. So you're going to have the same internal IP address. If you have some other data disk, it's going to use that basically. You can do it basically. Now the system is changed. Save is done is what it indicates. Now if I go to my machine configuration, internal IP address is retained, and internal IP address is going to get changed after 24 hours, folks. Even internal IP address is ephemeral, but the refresh happens every 24 hours. But external IP address, immediately when you stop it, if you are not reserved it, it's going to go off. Okay. Now let me just start this. The machine type is already reflecting G1 small. Let me just start it. When I start it, what's going to happen is I'm going to be allocated with a new IP address. A new IP address. How to retain the IP address, we'll talk about in our networking class, not now. Basically, you need to reserve it. Basically, that's it. So we'll talk about that in our networking class. So now the VM is getting started, if I'm not wrong. Did I not start it? When I start it, the machine type is going to come into picture. The billing starts, and what the customer told, we should be able to achieve it. Now you see the IP. The IP address is going to be changed. You see the previous IP was 132, but the new external IP address is basically something which is 62. Let me just see whether it's really working. Click on this. It's working. Apache web server is working, but the IP is changed. Don't worry about the IP. We'll try to make it static at a later point of time. There's one question: when the VM in use, will its internal IP address change after 24 hours automatically? If it's in use, it's not going to get changed. I need to verify that, Anil B. So, but it is going to get refreshed is what I have seen in some documentation. You can reserve it if you want. IP address will change when we stop the VM, but if you don't stop the VM for days, the internal its IP will change. I heard that it is going to change. It's going to get refreshed, is what I have seen basically. Uh, if you want, you can reserve the internal IP address also. But per my understanding, even if the VM is running, the IP is going to get refreshed is what I understand. Let me get it clarified. Maybe tomorrow I'll update you on it. So I remember seeing a documentation on that. Whether it's going to change it or not, I'll get it verified tomorrow and share you that stuff. But if you want, you can reserve it. Reservation is going to be free. So, and when it is internal IP, right, you will not use the internal IP address basically for any change. So you will always use the internal DNS name to call your thing. So you will not rely usually on internal IP address, but rather rely on an internal DNS. So that way, any change, you don't need to worry about it. Basically, if this IP is going to be called from something, you are going to be having a DNS name. Usually the format is going to be something like the host name dot c host name dot zone dot c dot internal, something of that sort. There's an internal DNS available, so it's going to, you have to use that one so that you don't have any constraints with the IP. More like how you have a DNS, external DNS like www.google.com, so you can do it. So the internal IP reservation is free, yes. External IP address, definitely you will have a charge there. Right, you are totally correct. So if I reserve this, there's a cost, but internal IP address is totally free of cost when you reserve it. We'll talk about reserving this IPs in our networking class. Now, machine type changed, everything reflecting, good. So smartly, we were able to do it. It took us around 30 minutes because we were discussing some other extra topics, but definitely it is possible. I don't need to spend 5 more days to do the same work just because the machine type needs to be changed. So far, so good. Now, everybody who worked with a customer will definitely know customer requirements keeps on changing. Few reasons, few things could be for good reason, and few things they are exploring. So they wanted us to do those changes continuously. Let's see that what's the next requirement the customer has. The next requirement the customer is having is they want to move the server from Singapore A zone to Singapore B zone. Why? Anybody can comment why they want to change from one zone to another zone. What are the possible reasons people move from one zone but in the same region to another region? More customers in zone B, it's going to be the same region, so it's going to be Singapore, so it should not be a problem. Some compute related stuffs. Basically, one possible reason is we have seen, right, in Singapore A itself, for example, any zone you take, in one zone you may have one specific machine type, in another machine in zone you may not have that availability of resource. Yes, Anil B, so that's going to be a good choice. Maybe Smith's point of you want to have GPUs possible, so different resources are available in a different zone, so that's the reason customer wanted to move, sorry, customer wanted to move from one zone to another zone, from one zone to another zone. GPU stands for graphical processing unit. So let's see how we can do it. So one possible option is with an inbuilt command called as gcloud compute instances move. If you just use this, it's going to do that. Let's see whether this command works or not. Currently this command will not work. I'll also tell you the reason why it's not going to work. So, but previously this option was there. I'll show you the most updated version now. You need to be aware of all those things so that it's going to be helpful. So let's. So you can move from Singapore A to B easily with this command. Let's see whether we can do it.
Server, right? So, and without stopping the server.
Okay. So the requirement does not say whether you want whether it's without stopping or not. So this command is going to do without with stopping. It's going to do with stopping. Later we'll see how we can do without stopping. First we'll see how with stopping you are going to do. So slowly we'll upgrade ourselves. Slowly when we go to a maturity, we'll make sure it is zero downtime.
Thank you, Mahesh.
Yeah. So now let's try to do this command. Launch my Cloud Shell. So requirement is from Singapore A zone to Singapore B zone. That's the requirement. Now let me just use the command gcloud compute instances move, then the name of the instance. If you don't remember the name of the instance, you can just hit tab. It's going to auto complete. It's going to, okay, they have bugs in the system. It used to work. If it's not working, I'll put it usually. It used to show up. Let me just do Control C, folks. Let me type it batch 6 regular -web -server. This is the name of my this thing. What is the current zone it is in? It is currently in Singapore A zone. And what's my destination zone? What is my destination zone? It's going to be B zone or C zone, whatever you want. But it's in the same region. So B zone. Let's try to do this and see what's going to happen. Sorry, what was the command? There's an issue here. Okay, gcloud command. So, okay, I guess I made a mistake with the typing. Gcloud compute instances move, the name of the instance, from which zone, source, and the destination. Current zone and the destination zone. When I do this, I get an error message where it says the instance is unified extensible. F stands for what? Firmware interface enabled and does not support move instance. So not sure what was this. So simple. Usually this is what we also do. So this one, I usually do something like this. That's it. GCP. Yes, that's it. So this is at this thing. Yes, Anil, you are totally correct. If I do something with this, what's going to basically happen is unified extensible framework firmware interface with GCP. If you look into it, basically what it's going to show is these are shielded VMs. So these are shielded VMs is what it indicates. Secure boot. So shielded VMs provide this support, meaning your virtual machine, when you provisioned it, it is shielded. So if I just go create a virtual machine, so this move command does not work for shielded VMs is what it indicates. Now in Google itself, if you take, there are different teams who works on different parts of the stuff. So this gcloud command may be built by some team, and this shielded feature could be done by some other team, and there could be product management which is going to make generally available those things. So different teams. So somewhere some connect is missing. So let me just show you unshielded VM. There's a question. Let me finish it and then answer it. So unshielded VM Singapore. I'll keep it in A. Make it as F1 just to show you that part, whether this command really works or not. G1 F1 micro. Now, if you don't do anything, by default, it's always Debian and it is always shielded. And that's the reason we are not able to move it. Now, what I can do is there are very limited unshielded VMs available currently. So one is Debian 9 or Fedora. In some Fedora options, you have few unshielded VMs. But if you look into Red Hat, all are shielded. If you look into Windows, all are shielded. Debian, Ubuntu, if you see, I guess most everything should be shielded. Now, what Google has done is from April 2020, they have made this as what default. So VMs are going to get provisioned with shielded VMs as by default. So that's what they have done. So this is going to be turned on by default. So in April, when they made this, it's going to be basically now if you don't do anything, the default is going to be shielded VM by default. So if you are using shielded VM, you cannot use this command. Basically, that's an indication. Now to show you that command, at least I'm just going to use only for this demonstration Debian 9, an unshielded VM. Unshielded VM, that's the reason you don't see that shield. And when I see my security, it is going to show me that none of those security, secure boot, all those things are turned on. It's all disabled. So it is not unified extensible firmware interface enabled. Go ahead and create it. By the time that gets created, let me just look into the question. So is it because of the shielded? Yes, it's not allowed. That's because of that. Totally correct. But it's insecure. We need to use which one is insecure, Vijay?
Unshielded one.
Unshielded one is
Maybe
unsecure. It's not secure. Yeah, that is that's not secure. That's true. So I just wanted to show that command
But
basically. Who knows? A command can come in the exam basically. Uh,
we can revert back if you configure unshielded. We can revert back to shielded one. I think it's not.
no, not
Don't
possible.
think so.
Not
It's
possible.
possible.
Not possible because then at the
Yeah.
boot, right? The boot disk. So maybe you have to. Okay, you can do a slightly different way. So like this, I'll show you. Maybe I'll show you that part. So this is unshielded, right? So now let me try to move this from Singapore A to B zone. Same command. Let's see how it's going to work. So clear the screen. I'll call this as unshielded.
Actually, normally we are doing in a different way this kind of issues. Other cloud, so we just directly copy the disk from the other cloud like a
I'll come to
storage
that.
account. Similar
I'll come
way,
to
we
that.
copy the.
I'll come to that, Vijay. Hold on. I'll come. I have a story to show. That's the only reason. So till the end, if you hold on, I'll definitely explain you. So different options I wanted to show you basically. So this is the command, the same thing which should work basically. Now, what this happens behind the scene, I wanted to show because we are going to learn how this command has been implemented and use it for our next implementation. So if you have such kind of a requirement where a VM isn't in one availability zone or one zone, it has to be moved to another thing. People take something like a snapshot. So I need to connect it back. Okay. People do with a take a disk and then they will do it. Basically, the same thing is what this command is going to do behind the scene. So without you doing anything extra work, it's going to do that for you. So it's going to take something called as a snapshot. There's a disk. That snapshot of the disk is going to be taken. Use that disk, create a new virtual machine in a new zone, but in the same region. And also make sure the IP address is also reserved and retrieved in the same way. So let me show you that stuff. So let's just wait for the screen to come up. And I wanted to show you a couple of more information. So I'm just going to use a couple of more tabs to show you what happens behind the scene. Maybe, yeah, I'll just put one more tab here, console. And we'll see these are going to lead us to a better solutions. But knowing these things will help you out how they have done this. Maybe in the future, maybe this is a bug. For shielded VM, this move command is not working. They may fix it. Who knows? But currently it is not going to work. And it's likely contradicting that everything is now shielded, but this move command does not work. And you may also think like this. So you don't need to do this move itself if you have captured as a cloud architect all the requirements thoroughly in the beginning itself. And these are all the things because maybe the cloud architect, as cloud architect, has not done our job completely, or the asking all the detailed requirement, or the customer was very reluctant in, or it's keep on changing it. It could be two things. So the reasons why we are looking into it, by looking into this kind of ever-changing requirement, we are going to learn some more new features basically. So for some reason the system is, let me just close certain stuff, folks, so that I can free up some space. One minute. I guess my system is running. Let me just close certain stuffs. I don't think so we have anything here, so I'm just going to close this for a minute just to free up some space in my system. One minute. By the time this comes up, I wanted to show you what's going to happen step by step. So when you do this G-Cloud move, right? G-Cloud compute instance move, what's going to happen is step one. Step one, stop the VM. This is how this command has been implemented, folks. There could be some better way, but they do this way. Stop the VM, then take snapshot. Take snapshot of your VM. Take the snapshot of this VM. Then my understanding is they also reserve the IP address. We can give a try. Reserve the external IP address. Then create a new VM. Okay, once they reserve it, delete this VM. Then once it is completely deleted, what they are going to do is they are going to use this VM to create a new VM, create a new VM in new zone using the snapshot. That's the most important thing, using the snapshot. So snapshot is nothing but your complete disk copied, but in a compressed way, basically. So it's going to be compressed. So it's going to use the snapshot and with the external IP address which was reserved. Once the VM is up, delete the snapshot. The snapshot is only for a short time, is what they are going to do, basically. So these are the steps which is going to be done behind the scene by just one command. So why we are exploring this, even though it is not going to be fully used, the reason is the way they have implemented it. So you can think of this yourself without downtime also. So, but this procedures, if you follow, you can retrieve the same stuff in a different zone, make it available in a different zone, basically. So for some reason, my system is slow. I have to free up something. So 1 minute. Okay, what we'll do is maybe we can just have a quick 10 minutes break, come back. Anyway, it's close to our break time. So take a break, folks. I'll just stop sharing and fix my system. Is there any leak happening with my memory? So I'll just fix it and then we'll come back. Okay. Let me stop the recording.
This conference will now be recorded.
So I'm doing a fallback option. My laptop had some issues, so but using GCP itself, I thought of thinking it. So I have a Linux machine where I have installed some desktop components, and I have logged in RDP into that Linux machine. From that Linux machine only, I'm trying to show you the stuff. So now what I wanted to show you is basically using Cloud Shell. How will I do a movement of this unshielded VM from Singapore A to Singapore B zone. Any zone, as long as it is in the same region. Is it really, for any of you, is Cloud Shell opening up, folks? Cloud Shell opening up by any chance? For any of you? Is there a downtime? Let me see. There are some 10 disruptions happening currently. 10 disruptions are happening all of a sudden. Same issue, Mangesh. Yeah, people from other parts of the world can check it. That's going to be helpful. Some suddenly disruption started. Okay. Now you Cloud Shell not working at my end. Okay, it's working at your end. Yes, same issue. So not able to launch Cloud Shell. People from US can check it out, folks. Kubernetes compute engine, some working. It's working. So for me, it's not working. Let me launch. But there's some new disruptions happening. Let me see it one last time. Works for me. Okay, it's working now. Okay, let me just check it out, folks. If it does not work, I'll try to do with the command line. That's it. I have no problem. So I have plan C. I can do it from my local machine. That's not a problem. It's taking time. Okay, so by the time this comes up, right, let me use my command line, a real use case. Something like this will definitely happen in your real use case also. When you are doing something, at that time something is not working. So don't be stuck with one option. So we have already two options, right? We can definitely use this. So for me, it's not working. It's taking time to load. I don't know the reason, but I'll show you from my Cloud SDK. Should not be a problem. So what I'll do is I'll show you. Okay, it's slow but working. Fine. Nothing can be done. Okay, I'll just show you this command flow. Gcloud compute. First, I should make sure I set my project to config set project to learn hyphen GCP hyphen PCA hyphen batch hyphen 6. Let me set this. Thanks, folks, for testing it out. At my side, it is having some issue. But we have plan C. We can try it. These are good use cases where you can try something like this. Gcloud compute instances move. I don't remember the instances, so let me just get the list. I don't need to have my console itself. If I know the command, I can do everything in the command line. So let me get the instance, and which instance we wanted to move. I'll just show you, and we will use an unshielded VM, and it's going to be easily moved basically. By the time this comes up, Cloud Shell is not going to come for me. So what I will do is basically show you a couple of stuffs. The screen may be a little jerky, folks. I'm sincere apologies. Snapshot, just wanted to show you the snapshot screen, and also wanted to show you a screen where the IP address are made as static. It's under a networking option. No, I'm just not showing the SDK. I'm just showing you the option, what is going to happen behind the scene once we do this process. Snapshots, currently you see it is empty. Currently it is empty. Sorry, folks. And when I come to VPC, let me just give you some context, folks. Just hold on for a minute, please. Okay. The unshielded VM, you see this is the IP address of the unshielded VM, which is ephemeral, which is going to change if you do it, if you stop the VM. That's one thing. And currently there's no snapshots. And we have these two VMs running. So we have VMs running. The background is this one. No snapshot there. The IP is ephemeral. Now, when I do the gcloud that move command, right? What's going to happen is what I wanted to show you. So for that, I'll go back to my command line. So what I will do is, this is using my cloud SDK installed on my laptop. I'm going to do it. So move instances move. The name of the instance is unshielded. Zone, it is currently in Singapore. And the destination zone which I wanted to move is B. Okay, so this was a command which we tried for the other VM, but it was shielded VM. That's the reason it did not work. But this VM is an unshielded VM, so it should definitely work. So let me just show you the process, what's going to happen. So it's going, okay, syntax error, hyphen, 2 hyphens. So it's going to show, it starts moving the instance. It's going to show if things are all fine, it should show moving the instance. And now you see the moving the instance. Now let me switch my screen to show what's happening. First of all, it's going to shut down the instance. Let me just refresh it. You see this, folks? It is getting stopped. And behind the scene, there's going to be one snapshot also taken. There's going to be a snapshot which is going to be taken. Let me just refresh it. And let me see whether the external IP address, is there any change in that external IP address? You see that IP address, which was the unshielded VM's IP address, they made it as static, which was previously ephemeral, so that they can reserve it and bring it back to the same stuff. So IP is made as static for a short time only. Then snapshot is going to be taken in next few minutes. If I just see that, refresh it. Let me just refresh it and see it. You see the snapshot, folks? Snapshot taken for only for a short time. Now, if I go to my VM, the VM would have even been taken back. No more VMs. The VM is removed. Now, in next few minutes, it's going to create a new VM in a new zone, but with the same external IP address, with the same content which you had. So it's going to come up with the same stuff. Let me just wait. Let me just refresh it. But the biggest drawback is it's going to have a downtime. Now you see this. What's the biggest change? The zone is changed. The zone is changed. So the same IP is going to be allocated. And the content which is already there in the snapshot is going to be used.
So Mahesh, even for unshielded or shielded, in both cases, we are stopping the VM and then changing the zone, right?
No, when it is a shielded VM, we were not able to apply this command itself. It was showing that, right?
Okay,
It is
command. Yeah.
it is
Okay, command.
the failed. The command failed. That's the reason we came to unshielded VM demo only. So unshielded VM came back with the same IP address. Everything is back to normal. So, and if I now go to my snapshot, if I just refresh it, the snapshot will not be there. It was only for that short period it was taken, gone. Now, if I go to my external IP address, refresh it, it's back to a ephemeral IP. So the whole reason for showing this command is if somebody can create a script like this, we can also do that also. But the only thing is that we will try to do it in a slightly a better manner where we don't stop the VM is what we wanted to do. So hope this part of the demo is clear, folks, how the move command works. Basically, if you are using these were all the steps: start, take, reserve the IP, delete the VM, then use that and delete the snapshot and make external IP ephemeral back. So it's not currently this command, right? This gcloud compute instance move will not work for shielded VM. Basically, it's not going to work. So I can just put this command in the chat. Now the same thing we'll try to implement it so that we can have something which can be applied for our VM which is in currently in place. So we'll try to apply that. This command did not work. So this does not work because we were using shielded VMs. So let's try to do the same thing and see whether we can do it. All right. So hope the context is clear, folks. Let me know if there's any questions. So, and there are a few questions. Can we copy disk from one region to another regions? All those things I'm going to answer it once we do it. Okay. Now, before we move to the other stuff, right? This is and I had this move command demo in my YouTube also. The question which I get multiple times, same question is, can I use this move command to move from one region to another region? Meaning from Singapore, so if I use Singapore B, can I move from Singapore B to, say, for example, US Central? Or forget about US Central, the next closest location, Jakarta. Is that possible? Answer is no. Jakarta is 2A. If I just try it, right, it's going to show movement is not possible if it is inter-regional. So it has to be within a region, not between two regions. Let me just show you the message, what it's going to show. You see this error? Instances belonging to subnetworks cannot be moved interchangeably. It has to be in the same region. Only then you can move it. All these drawbacks we will easily fulfill or remove it when we go with a better option. So that's what we are going to do now. So this did not work for us. Let's try to fix it ourselves. So what we are going to do is basically, so I'll go to my virtual machine. So this is not required anymore, folks. I'm just going to delete it. How can I stop this jumping? I had to exit my full screen. By mistake, I did full screen. I'm not able to set it back. What's the shortcut for exiting full screen, folks?
Escape.
Escape. Escape
Yep.
is going to do it. I'm in a Firefox Linux one. So, okay, no problem. I'll just close this. Sincere apologies. I did not know what happened. Okay, close all my tabs. I'll just do it one more time. I just log in back once more. That full screen was really jerky. Console.cloud.google.com. Good. It retained my stuff. So dashboard batch 6. So the goal is it's interesting to know that we can do. Now, this is a command which is there, a video in my channel also. I guess one of the highly viewed video, not on GCP, but on a Linux machine. How can you have turned on desktop experience? So look into that, Anil. You will get it basically. So I use it for some demonstration purpose. Now it is helping me basically. So if I just go to my, now at least it's, the screen should not be so jerky. What I'm going to do is go to my VM. First, without downtime. We saw with all downtimes. Now, you people will never be a fan for downtime because everybody wants zero downtime, all those things. Let me see how we can achieve this with zero downtime, but only the IP address. If you want to retain the IP address, there's going to be a little jerk there, only that part. So let me show you that part with the help of something called as snapshot. Even that command also took the same thing. We are also going to do the same thing. So for doing that, what I'm going to do is go to snapshots. So take a snapshot of your disk. So this is something available in on-premise also if you have worked on VMware kind of stuffs. If you have not worked on it, it's something like, in very, very simple terms, you have a screen and you want, how do you do a print screen where all the stuffs in the screen is get preserved, right? It is the same thing which you're going to do even for a virtual machine, where what is the current state? You take that current state, compress it, and store it on Google Cloud Storage. That's what it's going to do. So let's try to take a snapshot. And this is heavily used for taking a backup of a virtual machine. So let me take it as snapshot SG, and the source of the snapshot is my virtual machine disk, and I want to keep my snapshot in a specific region only, Singapore only. That's where the virtual machine is there. If you want to use the snapshot in multiple, say for example, in multiple regions in a continent, you can go with multi-region. In our case, it is in Singapore, so I don't want to make it multi-region. It's going to incur cost, so I'm going to go with region. That's it. Go ahead and click on create. Simple. Take a snapshot. What is the current state? It's going to take it. Now, want to see the command line equivalent of it? Just click on this. You should be able to see the command line equivalent. Gcloud compute disks snapshot. What is the snapshot? The snapshot name. Oh, sorry, not the snapshot name. What is the disk name? This is the disk name. The project. What is your snapshot name? Snapshot SG. Where is your location? The storage location. I want to keep it in Singapore. That's what I'm saying. That's it. So let's click on create. Usually snapshots are compressed. So it's going to be compressed. And we had seen in our previous demo with the boot disk with Apache Web Server, it was around 1.4 GB was the used one. With compression turned on, all those things, it's going to come around 400 or 600, 400 to 600 MB, the snapshot size. So still the VM is running, folks. Still the VM is running. And let me show you how we can use snapshot to move to a different zone in the same region. So it's going to take a couple of minutes for, yes. So this is your snapshot size. Okay. And the source was this one. Now, what I will do is go to my virtual machine screen. For a minute only, I'm going to remove this external IP address. So I'm going to make this as reserved and release this from this virtual machine and add it to a new virtual machine. So couple of steps, like how that script was doing, we are doing it ourselves. So what I will do is basically go to my networking, slightly a jump to networking. But since most of you wanted it with zero downtime with the same IP, trying to show you that slight stuff. Any external IP address which you do is going to be having a entry here, and it shows it is currently used by Batch6 regular web server. It is ephemeral, meaning it's short-lived. Let me make it as static. It is so simple. Just click on that. It's going to come up. Static SG B is what I'm going to make it as. Reserved. Still the VM is running, folks. Still the VM is running. you should be able to still access the IP address. You should be able to do it. So if I just do this, put it in your this thing, it should be still accessible, no downtime. Now what I'm going to do is edit this virtual machine, and what I'm showing you, all those things can be done via command line also. So edit the VM, and I'm just going to remove that external IP address from this virtual machine, or only for a short time, so that I can add it back to the new virtual machine. So go to my networking, and all those things without zero downtime I'm trying to do. The VM is going to be still there. Only that short time where the IP address is going to be changed, there it's going to be unreachable. Now external IP address, ephemeral. Now let me make it as none, so that nothing is going to be attached. Done. Save it. Now it's released. I should be able to use it to any new VM in the same region. So let me quickly create a virtual machine. Create a new VM. So something like server in SGB. Okay, there's a white space. Now let me try to, this was the most important requirement, right? Make it in Singapore B zone. This is what they wanted. Good. And let's go with the same machine type, G1 small. And this is the most important step in this demonstration, folks. You should not use your vanilla operating system. This, if you do it, it's going to be plain. But what I want is an Apache web server. So for that, you need to click on this change. Instead of public images, which we know what are the public images available, go for something called as snapshots. Snapshots, which is available in your project. Now, if I click on this, I will have one snapshot, which I just took. Forget about the time zone. Maybe the Linux machine is totally in a different time zone. So snapshot, the disk size has to be the same, 15 GB. That's what we increased it. Select it. First time we are not using a public image, but we are using our own snapshot to do it. And because it's going to have Apache web server, I'm going to have my firewall rule turned on. That's it. The only difference which you need to do is, okay, one more thing. We want the same IP address, right? Go to networking. Make sure you assign the same IP. How do I do it? Just click on this thing, networking. Under external IP address, it's always going to be ephemeral. But since you have already reserved one, that reserved one is going to show you that. Select it. That's it. Now, what and all we did, we used snapshot and we used a reserved IP, the static IP. And by that way, we should be able to get the same stuff running in a different zone, basically. So click on done, and I can click on create. But before I click on create, I wanted to show you something here. The command line equivalent of it. So the command line equivalent of it, let me just zoom this. There are two commands, folks. There are two commands. So let me know what is the first command trying to do. We'll come to that, Vijay. I'll show you that. The only thing is that you are a little speedy. That's the problem. So hold on, I'll help you with all the questions. So you are jumping the guns. That's the only thing. So all possible, I'll show you. So I cannot jump directly to that. So I have to have the story there. It is possible. So what's the first command, folks, here trying to do? Now you should have an idea. What is this command trying to do? What's the first command trying to do? What's the second command trying to do? Second command, I'll take the easiest one. Second command is creating a virtual machine. Simple. What is the first command trying to do, folks? Why it needs to create a, okay, I'll hold on. Smith got it. Others, what is the first command trying? You should have an idea by now. By just looking at the command itself, we should be able to tell it. Smith got it. Anybody else wants to try it? What is that first command? Anil, partially correct. Creating a disk, all those things. Good. So most of you were able to get it because it's G Cloud compute disks create. It is creating a disk from where? From a snapshot. The source is a snapshot. And it's creating a disk in Singapore B. Now, how this disk has been referenced or referred by the virtual machine is by this line. It is by this line. So it is referred by this line. So first of all, why do you need to have a disk here? First of all, can't I use the snapshot directly? Is a question. Any thoughts on this, folks? Can't I use the snapshot directly? Why can't I use it? Any thoughts? Why you need to create a disk and then do it? Snapshots are compressed. Awesome. That's correct. Basically, snapshots are compressed form. You cannot directly use it. So you have to make a disk out of it and then only attach it. So nothing to do with the zone or anything. It's basically to do, it's in a compressed form. Make a disk out of it and then attach it. So now it gives you a very clear indication. If you were to create a new virtual machine, you have to have a disk and then do it. So you can do with the snapshot also. The only thing is that it's going to take little more time. So this command, assume with the Google's network capacity, all those things, it may take around 10 seconds extra. Just creating a virtual machine can take 10 seconds. So totally, it's going to take 20 seconds for me if I use a snapshot. If I use a snapshot and create. But if I use it with a disk, it's going to be 10 seconds. So basically, there's going to be little more time taken if it's going to be using a snapshot. Remember that. This concept is going to be used in tomorrow's class. Okay, so let me just escape this. So let me just create this virtual machine. I should have the virtual machine with the same IP which you were using previously, and the Apache web server. The software which took us 5 days to install should be there. So I'm there. If I click on it, it should go to show me the stuff. So the only difference is it's now served from a different zone in the same region. Remaining everything for the user, it remains the same. Now we had a very small downtime only for that IP stuff. If you can do this, you can do it slightly in a different manner also. So you can play around with DNS records and change the record and do the switch. That is also possible. So a couple of ways are possible there. So here, because we have not looked into DNS and all, so I thought I'll show you this option where I can reserve an IP address, something like how this gcloud command, gcloud compute instances moved it. We try to do the same thing but by ourselves. So the VM is still there and we are able to access it. So this is the second option using snapshot. Any questions on this part? I'll come to the remaining questions between the zones, like between regions, all those things. I'll answer it next. That's the next part. This part is this clear, folks? From one zone to another zone, if it is a shielded virtual machine, snapshot is going to help you out easily. And with zero downtime, we can definitely achieve it. Any questions on this part so far? Okay, if you don't give me a response, I'm going to assume it is clear. So I'm going to take it to my advantage. So this part, only this part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makesh, if you have a multiple disk also, we need to run a snapshot, or each disk we need to create a snapshot?
Good question. So you have to do it for each disk. You have to do a snapshot for each disk. Now there's a new feature in GCP called as like how in AWS you have AMI, Amazon Machine Image. You are going to have something called as Google Machine Image, where you can take the complete machine. It may have C drive, D drive, multiple disks, all those things you can take it and you can restore it in a different region. That is possible. But when it comes to snapshot, individual disk you have to take it. Yes, Anil. So
Okay,
it is
same.
called as machine image. Yeah. So I'll show you that slightly at a high level, but because it is still in pre GA or something, so we'll not do it. But I'll show you the difference towards the end. So this part, if it's clear, we moved from one zone to another zone in the same region. That's good. Now, as usual, the customer requirement keeps changing. The customer requirements keep changing, and now the customer is not having more hits in Singapore. Now he's feeling, let me shut down my business in Singapore, move to Taiwan. Now he wants to have the entire setup because the traffic is going to come from Taiwan users, so they wanted to get a lowest latency. So he wants to do the same thing in Taiwan region. So how? Let's try to see it. Again, our snapshot is going to help us. How? We'll see it. This should answer Vijay's question from one region to another region. How do we do it? So first one which we saw was within the region. Now let's see how we can do it with two regions. So totally out of Singapore. Let's try to do it. Snapshot is the option again. So if I just go to my Firefox browser, so what I will do is when they move to Singapore, from Singapore to they want to move to Taiwan, again we'll try to do it with zero downtime. But one important thing to note here is you cannot retain the IP. The retaining the IP is not possible. Why? I'll tell you now. Look at this IP, folks. Look at this IP. Look at the region. The IP address is a regional resource. So you cannot change it from one region to another region. So it's a pool of IPs which Google has got, IPv4. So you cannot use the same IP in a different region. So meaning in Taiwan, when you create it, you have to provision it with the new IP address. Remember it. Even if you release this, nothing is using, even if you release it, you cannot use it in Taiwan. It is regional. So in Taiwan, it has to be a new IP address. So then you have to have a DNS record. Say, for example, if you had a DNS record like www.myapp.com, which was pointing to this IP, now you have to go to your DNS records and change it to a new IP, which is the Taiwan's external IP address. That's what you are going to do. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll show you how I can make this running in a different region altogether. It's nothing. It's the same stuff. All the same stuffs I can do it. Just change the region. That's it. So instance in Taiwan. Select Taiwan. Which zone you want, you select it. Taiwan. Maybe A. Choose your machine type. Now it's the same step, folks. It's the same step where you're going to do, instead of public images, go refer your snapshot. It's going to be available, and it's available across this project. You can have this in any region. The snapshot is taken. You can create it in any region. It's not only the neighboring countries. You can go totally opposite, meaning from the snapshot is taken in Singapore, you want to create it in US Central, it is possible. You want to do it in US Central, even there it is possible. I can have the same snapshot. Snapshots are available across this in the same project across multiple regions. It is available basically. So if you want in Central, I can create it in Central. So let me go and create it in Central itself with external IP address and with HTTP firewall rule turned on. Now if I click on the command line, the same two commands are going to be there because a new disk needs to be attached, created from the snapshot. So click on create. Once I do it, I have a data. Using the same data, I'm creating a virtual machine in totally in a different region, right opposite. So from Singapore, I'm creating it something in US Central, Iowa. So let me just see whether it gets provision. provision, click on it. Sorry, the name was Taiwan, but it is provision in zone, my bad. So if I click on this, it should work. It works beautifully. Now, throughout all the 3 case studies which we explored, what we have seen is we have never spent 5 days more, and we have tried to explore more options in GCP. So with downtime, we came to a place where without downtime, we can do it, basically. So by doing it, we have leveraged more concept. We have explored more concept. And this is the same thing which I ask you to also do. When you do the lab yourself, you will have your different ways. You may come from different background of cloud. Uh, for example, Vijay, he comes from Azure. So now he may try something with Azure style and he may find out something new. Exploration is always important. So you may find something better. So the options which I showed, you may find out something much better than this because of your previous or other cloud skills. So that exploration is always important. Try this and also try to do the labs which we are doing it yourself, but without looking into the recordings. So that way you will do mistakes. When you do mistakes, you'll search for something in the Google. You'll find out something new, which I would not have even taught you. So that part is an important part, basically. Okay. So far the requirements which they have given, we have successfully done it without spending 5 more days. Now we have really impressed the customer. The customer is really happy. He has been moved to Taiwan. Everything is good. Now he says, can you move this to a production project? All these things which we did are assume our batch 6 is a dev environment. In GCP, every environment maps to one project. In on-premise, if you have one project, it is one environment. It is going to be one Google Cloud project. So now the batch 6 which we have, assume it is a dev project. We showed everything. Their customer is really happy. Now the customer is asking, can you please move this Taiwan, the VM which is in Taiwan B or A, whatever the zone, in a production project is what they are asking. Let's go and explore whether we can do it. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have another project, folks. So for now, let me just remove these machines. I may fall short of budget. I'm just going to delete it. So what I will do is I will go to another project, so called as batch 6 project. So with your free trial account, you can create up to 12 projects. So 2 projects is more than enough for you to learn. So you can create your second project, or maybe my first project which you had, you can use that also. That is also possible. So let me switch my project. So to batch 6 production project. This is totally a new project, folks. So here, what I will do is I'll go and create a virtual machine. Simple. Forget this virtual machine. Actually, we are logged into this virtual machine only, folks. This is a virtual machine which I'm currently in. Now let me create it in. What we'll do is we'll create a virtual machine. Same style. Let's see whether our snapshot are going to help us. So instance in prod. Instance in prod. We went to from Taiwan. We were doing it in US Central. Let's go with US Central only, but in a different project. So because it's production, right? Maybe instead of G1 small, let's go with standard, slightly more powerful virtual machine. Then go to your boot disk. This is the change which we are usually used to do, right? Click on change, click on snapshot. And what you see is you don't even see snapshots. Why? Any reason, folks? Why you don't see snapshot? We are in a different project. What could be the possible reason which you can think of? Bug? Screen not refreshed? Or because it is in a different project, the scope of a snapshot is only a project. Three possible options. So the third option is the right answer, actually. Snapshots are limited to projects only. So that's correct because it's a different project. The scope of a snapshot is only within a project. I cannot see that. Now, definitely our snapshots are not going to help us in this case. So this is where the concept of creating a new VM, identical VM in a new environment comes into picture. Folks who have done this in the past usually will create a complete disk copy. They'll take a complete disk copy and create it in a new environment. Now, snapshot are not going to help us is what is very clearly understood from the screen itself. Custom image is something which can help. The reason is in custom images, you have the option of a drop down where you can switch between multiple projects as long as you have access to. So custom images, which is nothing but a complete disk copy, has the scope of spanning across multiple GCP projects. As long as you have a scope, you have access, you should be able to get it. When you say access, the IAM access, Kumar, the IAM access. So if you should have a specific access, only then the role called as compute image user role, if you have it,
Okay.
you should be able to access it.
Yeah, I mean, I meant to ask that one. What exact the role actually? Yeah. Okay, got it.
Compute image user role. We will use that in the next demo. So I'll show that also. All the things are covered, so don't worry. So you need to have a specific IAM role. I'll show you how to do it. Now, since it is the same user, learn.gcp 2022-2028 user, who is an owner for production project also, and also for batch 6 project also. I don't need to give him any explicit access. He's an owner. Let me just show you. He's an owner for this entire account. So if I just go to IAM, so if I put a filter on type users, so both the users, sorry, this user is already owner. Similarly, if I change this to batch 6, it's updated in the URL. Even here, this person is owner. So meaning I don't need to give any explicit access. It's going to work for him. Only thing is that I have to create an image. Let's go ahead and create an image, which is a complete disk copy. So if what I understand is image can be accessible across project, but it is controlled by IAM. Absolutely correct, Anil. So Anil B. So now let's go ahead and create an image. This is how people create images, folks. So create an image. I think you need to change the project. No, I'm in batch 6. From batch 6 only I have to create it. Create an image. Then that image would be available in other projects. Wherever you are owner or you have the necessary access, you should be able to access it. So the place where your disk is there, create an image from there, basically. So create an image. Let me call this as image prod. Now click on disk. There are various options where you can create your image from a disk, from a snapshot, from another image, from a file which is in Google Cloud Storage or a virtual disk. So different options are there. Let me explore the first option, from a disk. If I select instance in Taiwan, that instance, if I select it, if I'm trying to create an image out of that, it's going to throw me a warning message. Keep the instance running, not recommended. So what it means is basically you're trying to do a complete disk copy. And when you're doing this kind of a stuff, keeping the instance running is not recommended. The reason is basically you may have some file lock. Some process may be running, it would have locked some files. And if you try to do it, there's a chance that the disk or the file system can get corrupted. So to avoid that, Google recommends you to stop the VM and then do it. Now, if we stop it, we don't want to have downtime. So what could be the option which you can think, folks? Google is recommending not to stop it. Customer is asking not to stop it. Google and customer. So we are stuck in between. What could be the option which you can think of? If I use disk, definitely I have to stop it so that I don't have any issue with my file system. What could be the option which you can think? Let me show you
Have
the
other
answer.
option called
Yes.
image.
So use your other options. Yes. So use your other options. Snapshot. Why don't you use your snapshot, folks? That's it. Use a snapshot. From your snapshot, create an image. That's it. So this way you will not have any downtime. Snapshot, and I'll create my image in Singapore itself, or where you want to create it. You want to create it in US Central, right? Let me create it in US Central. That's it. So image snapshot. Go ahead and click on create. Before doing it, as usual, let's look into the command line equivalent. G-Cloud compute images create. Images create with the source as your snapshot, and the location is US Central. Let's create an image, folks. And you're going to have all the three options for encryption part. Oh, this is a known issue, folks. If I click on create, it's not going to work. I don't know what is the reason. First time when I click it, it does not work. One option, you can refresh it and it's going to work. Second option, if you are stuck with this kind of stuffs, refreshing the screen will definitely work sometimes. But if you are in a situation where you cannot refresh the screen, what could be the option which you can think? Now, if I click, it's not responding also. Looks like a bug actually. I have seen this 3 times now in the last 1 week. What could be the option which you can think, folks? Sometimes UI will fail. If UI fails, just that's it. Smith is correct. Go to command line, folks. Whenever UI is not working, just go to your command line. Yeah. If you don't know the command, no problem. Just click on this. You get the command line. You have the command line, just run it. It's going to work. That's it. So always think of that alternative options. Don't be stuck with one option. So let me see whether my Cloud Shell works. If it does not work, my plan C is there, which is my local Cloud SDK. I can run it there also. And this is a bug which shows I'm using Cloud Shell for a long time, but it is showing the Cloud Shell is not used for a long time. It looks like it is. That's what it shows. If it's taking time,
Again,
what I
one
will do
question.
is, yeah.
If API,
Go ahead, go ahead.
have an issue, if API have an
Then
issue,
nothing.
Cloud Shell also having the same issue, right? Then Code SDK
Correct,
only it
correct.
will work, right?
No. If API itself, REST API itself is having issue, you cannot do anything. You have to wait. You have to wait because your console, your Cloud SDK, everything relies on APIs. So if that itself is having issue, you cannot do anything. You have to wait till Google resolves it.
Okay, sometimes the Cloud Shell portal have issue, Cloud Shell also having the issue, right? Then Cloud SDK only work, right?
Correct. That is my plan C. That's my plan C.
Okay.
And that's the reason on that day, the first day I told, when you join the organization and you're going to do something, the first activity is install Cloud SDK on your laptop. And it could be a super strict organization. You can still install it. The reason is this is a verified software from Google. So they will not say it is an unverified software. That's one thing. The second thing is you don't need an administrative rights. You can just download it and install it. So I have installed it in even in an organization which was very strict. I don't need to raise an IT ticket. If you think it's going to be issue, raise an IT ticket, let them install it for you. No problem. So let's wait for this image to be created, folks. Once this image is created, we'll see whether we can access it from our production project. Maybe you want to see the status, you can just go to your okay, shell is not working for me. I have to look into it. So if I just go back Image pro. Okay, it's created. Let me just verify whether it has come out of the prompt. Yes, the image is ready. It's currently in a ready state. So good. Now let me go. Image is ready. Now what I will do is I will go to my other project, batch 6. Batch 6, better to refresh it. Caching can be there. So batch 6, which is my batch 6 production, which is my production project. And let me see whether I can use my this thing, image, which I created it. So for that, I'll go to my go to my virtual machine screen. I'm in batch 6. Look at the address, folks, in the address bar. It's very important. Now let me create a virtual machine. So I'm going to call this as instance prod. Instance prod. I wanted it in US Central. Any zone is okay with me. Because it's production, let's give little more capacity. Now the most important thing is change your boot disk. Click on change. Now we know snapshot is not going to help us. Let me come to my custom image, and in batch 6 production nothing is there, but in batch 6 I have an image. It's not showing up. It's only because the browser is not refreshed is what I feel. Let me just refresh it. It's an Ajax call. That's it. It's a bug. Okay, now it is showing up. Batch 6, it should show your image prod, which we just created few minutes back. Now I can use this and create it. It's a image which is in a deployable state. Simple. So complete disk backup or disk copies has happened, and I can easily use and create my virtual machine. So let me turn on the external, the firewall rule, and I want an external IP address, all those things. The key part was only the image. Image came to our rescue. Good. Now, before I click on create, if I click on command line, how many commands do you expect, folks, for this to happen? 1, 2, 1 for creating a disk, 1 for creating an image, a virtual machine, or only one command? Why? If it is 1, why? If it's 2, why? Any reasons, folks? Let's just look into it. Because the image is already in a ready state. It's in a ready state. Yes, it's already in an image form. I can just use it. Where is that line? If you want to see, it is basically this one. Now, this is a very clear indication when you're creating a brand new image virtual machine, always create it from an image. It's going to be faster. One command is going to work faster. So it's only one command. So when we do tomorrow auto scaling features, right, we will focus on this part again. Okay. So, and that's why in that auto scaling demo tomorrow, when we do, we only see custom images. We'll never leverage snapshots there. So all good. Let's click on create. And let's wait for the virtual machine to come up. Once it is up, I'll just verify whether my system, the stuff is working or not. Let me click on it. Still processing. So let me just wait.
If I want to update the image, again we need to create a new image, or is there any option to update?
Update an image, I did not get it. What is that? The content?
Yeah,
You wanted to update the
yeah.
application? You want to
No,
update the application?
if I create a image on today, maybe next week, I wanted the updated virtual machine. Again, I need to create a new image,
Yeah,
like
you
a
have to create
snapshot,
a new.
or is it an
You have
option?
to take
Oh,
you have to create a new one, maybe either from a disk or you create it from a snapshot. But you have to create it. It's not going to get
okay.
updated automatically.
If I have a requirement like keep updated image or keep updated disk, is there any option? Is there? Ish?
You have to make sure that you have a routine schedule script where we keep on updating this image. Now, if you go here, right, these images, if you click on it, these are all the public images which Google keeps on updating it regularly behind the scene. So they keep up-to-date images. So you have to keep something like that. So the last time this image was updated was on February. So if I just search for Debian,
No. I'm not talking this one.
this is
Ish.
this is
Actually,
also image only. This is also image only.
virtual
They
machine. I'm
provide you.
talking about virtual machine. Yeah, example,
Okay.
I have a virtual machine. I
Mhm.
have a virtual machine. So my requirement is like if it suddenly the virtual machine crashes anytime, I want to restore with the updated virtual machine, like kind of idea.
Mhm.
So for
You,
that, we
so the virtual machine crash and you want to restore it with a existing image is what is your question? Or with a
yeah
new
updated
image?
image. Yeah, updated
Updated.
image.
I can assume you have the image already or image is already existing. Can I assume it?
Anything. So I wanted to know the virtual machine. No, the data should be in updated one. Like
So I
actually, the RP
so
also will be.
so can I answer, Mahesh? I believe he is asking for two things. One, boot disk image he will be there, and he's looking for data disk image part.
Uh-huh.
Virtual
So
machine, complete virtual machine.
So you must be having your boot image already. So when you are creating another VM, right? So you will be using your existing boot VM because there won't be any change. You need, and for any more changes, I believe it will be in the data disk. So when you are creating your VM, reuse the boot disk and take and in your previous VM, you should have your disk keep disk option so that it should not get deleted whenever your VM got crashed or your any harm to your previous VM, and you should be able to reuse the data disk in that case.
So just to add on, thanks on this. Okay, just to
Okay,
let me add
we'll
on to
discuss
this. So
by
what you do is do this way. So if it's only for your thing for crash, right? Have this option, Vijay. Schedule your snapshots regularly. You keep scheduling your snapshots, your boot disk, your data disk. Both you keep taking a snapshot. So if you keep taking your snapshots regularly, if something is crashed, you go use those snapshots and create a new virtual machine. Straightforward way.
Okay, Mahesh.
Straight.
Actually, after the class, I'll explain you detail. So,
Okay, sure.
okay.
So this is about this thing, custom image. So now even in a different project, we were able to do it. So far so good. I guess I will just do one part and then stop it for the day. Now everything went good with this Taiwan customer or the US central customer, whatever it is. Now he or she has a sister company also. Now he would have told this model, this works very well, this kind of a website, you may also want to try it. Now we are creating something called as a golden image. Now if you are wanted to share this with a sister company, fortunately they are also using GCP, but it's not your own account, it's some other account, some other GCP account. What is the one which you're going to use is basically share this image, give only read only access to your sister company who's using a different account altogether, just give them compute image user role. If you just give this role, right, they can easily reference this image and create a virtual machine in their account. So when they provision it, you are not going to incur any cost to their image when they use the image. You're just sharing it. Then they will use that image and create a virtual machine there. So this way you can share your image also. The role which you need to give is compute image user role. If you just give this, other project also can access it. Or if you want to make this image publicly available, give a public access, all users, so that anybody in the world can access your image. So the role is the important thing. So basically your IAM role. Let me just show you this demo and then stop it for today. So if I just go to my image, this is the image, right? Only this image, I want to share it with my sister company, and that sister company's email ID, maybe a group email ID, something would be shared with me. Now what I will do is, because it's an individual image, I will always use my show info panel. So click on show info panel, and I will add a user, Mahesh at GCP with Mahesh.com. Done. This is the user, and I'm not going to give any other role except compute image user role, just to read the image resource, nothing else, folks, nothing else. So just you give this role, that's it, done. Now when this user logs in into any of the project, he just needs to mention couple of lines. Basically, I want my image from this project, and the name of my image is this one. That's what he needs to mention. Something like when you did here, right? When you created it in a batch in the production project, there were two lines which was mentioning, because it was a different project altogether, right? So what we mentioned was something like, if I just go to my how did you do that was change the disk, boot disk to this one, batch 6. Okay, this is a bug. Let me just again do this. UI is always buggy, folks. The two parameters which I should be remembering is basically image. You can do it in any project as long as that user has access. These two lines is what you need to have. Image project. What is the project from we are taking, and what is your image name? So just mention these two lines whenever you create it. What is your image name? You have to share this with your sister company. What's your image name and the project name? Then you should be able to create it in your project. Let me just show you that. And this user, Mahesh user, may not even have access to this project, but only have access to this image, that to read only access. Let me just show you how to do that. I can use my, hope I can use my Edge browser. Let me just use my Edge browser. Hope at least Cloud Shell launches there. I'll just do this and stop it for today. So I have logged in as, so in this project, I'll try to create one. This is a user to whom we gave compute image user role. So let me just show you what's going to happen. So with this user, and I'd like to show you the stuff both in UI and in command line, and we'll see in UI it does not work because of a bug, but in the command line it works. If you want to give raise a bug, if they can fix it, good, but we have a command line equivalent of it. So what I'll do is I'll go to my virtual machine screen. The reason why I highlight some of the bugs is you should not be always under the impression that you are making something wrong. It could be the other side also. There could be something bug, and keep this in mind. Actually, I had a learner like this. So he was trying. He had found out something interesting, which was bug, but he was feeling that it was wrong at his side. Maybe something he had done wrong, and that's the reason it's not working. So when he called me, I told it's a bug after looking into it. So I don't know whether he raised it or not, but don't always be under that impression. It could be Google also has bugs. So and there's no software in the world which is bug free. So that's the reality. If it was not having bugs, everybody would be using that only, basically. And if it's not having bugs also, there's no job for software developers. So, okay, Cloud Shell launched for me. Okay, so maybe something with my account problem, no problem issues. So this is the one, learn GCP, this project, and that image has nowhere any connect. So if I just go to my, just leave everything, go to my disk and click on custom image, the expectation is basically it should have shown that in the drop down. It should have shown it in the drop down. It does not show it. Basically, if I had given it at a specific object level, it's not going to show me that project batch 6 is not showing. If it cannot show in the UI, I cannot have any other option to enter it. So that's the reason I call this as a bug. Now, how do I fix this? Is with the help of uh, command line. So with the help of command line, I'm going to do it. So I just need to know what is the network I should do it. I don't remember the network, folks. So I'm just going to do it in Singapore. So is there a network? I'll just look into it. Okay. So what I will do is basically subnetwork Singapore. Okay. What I'll do is something like this. Gcloud first. Let me set the project. Gcloud config. Set project. Learn GCP. Let me just finish this. Sure. Thank you. Set the project. Now, whatever I do, it's going to be in Learn GCP Mahesh project. Afterwards, what I will do is gcloud compute instances create VM1. The zone is Singapore. Now, if I just do it, it's going to use my default image. So what I have to do is make sure I pass those two lines which we know. Image, don't remember the syntax. Image equal to, okay, let me see whether I can copy it. It is from a different system. If it works, good. Good. This works. Plus, I have a small change in my project here. So I have to explicitly mention the subnetwork. So I'll just get the syntax for that. Subnetwork. I have to mention these things explicitly because of some organization policy which I have put here. No external IP address, all those things. This is the stuff, folks. So now if I do it, it's going to create me a virtual machine with the name VM1, but using the content of which I created in the other project. I can easily do it. Just wait for this to come up. The reason it takes longer time is only just because it pulls the stuff. I have my VM. I have my VM. Now, just because I shared it, only maybe the egress cost is going to be involved for me. Remaining everything is going to be borne by this new user who created the virtual machine. He has that, and when he goes and looks into the details, right, there's nowhere any trace that you're using that image which your sister company shared it. You'll never have a trace of that, basically. So if I just go, it's going to just show it is having one disk. That's it, and in which Apache web server is running. That's it. So if I just go look into my disk, the disk, okay, it has that. Okay, it has a information. Good. Let me just click on it just to see whether I can get the details. Hope I can see it. I get the details. Good. I never explored that, so I at least get to know from which project I got it. Okay, I see. This is this image. It is here. Batch 6. Good. So even though I don't have access, it shows me that. Now here it is showing, but can I create an instance from here? Let me just give a try. Never tried it, this one. Let's see whether it works. You see, request failed. This is a UI bug. So in the UI with the image, you cannot create it. You have to do it in the command line. So these are some scenarios why I usually emphasize on command line. In the beginning, you had lots of questions. Why UI command line? Because of some limitations, you have to fall back to your command line in scenarios like today itself. We saw multiple scenarios like that. Now this is how you can share it uh, with your sister company, basically controlled by your IAM role. Let me just stop it here. We have one more requirement where it has to be shared something with a sister company, but they don't use GCP. So if they don't use GCP, how do you share it is what we are going to see in tomorrow's class. Okay, so let me stop it here. Before I answer any questions, folks, the class is stopped here. If you have a question, you can hang around. I can try to answer your question. If not, I'll try to get back to you on tomorrow the question answer for it. If you don't have any questions, you have a hard stop, you can log off. Okay, so people who have questions can stay back. If you don't have, you can log off. All right. Now, let me go to the chat to see is there any questions.
Makesh, I have one question here.
Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah. So first, anything on today's part, Vijay, I'm going to answer it. Afterwards, anything outside of it, I'm going to answer it. Go ahead, Vijay.
Okay.
If it's today's topic, because let's give preference to that. Yeah.
Okay. It's outside of that little bit.
Okay, so let me just see, is there anybody having still any questions on this? Are they consistent? They are consistent. Okay. Any questions on today's topic, folks? Who's still in the call? Any questions on today's topic? Okay, go ahead, Vijay. Nobody. Okay, nobody has a question on today's topic. Go ahead with your question.
Mahesh, I have a question. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. In the last use case which we did, so in the disk, in that part, the disk was created in the new project, or it was from the batch 6 project?
New project. So if I just go here, right? So this is my new Learn GCP project, Mahesh project. If I go here, the disk could be created here with the name VM1. Nowhere you're going to have any cost incurred to your company from where the image is shared. They just shared it with you. That's it. You see the disk is here.
Okay.
The only cost which I feel is you are going to read it, right? There's going to be an egress cost. That's going to be the only cost that company is going to bear. Remaining everything is you are going to bear it when you are provisioning it.
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Vijay.
Yeah, Mahesh. Actually, I have received one requirement like, the customer have one virtual machine, which is having the web application and one database. Okay, so they want to, configure a DR with a cost efficient way, like, and very lesser in, RPO and RTO. And I was provided a solution like Cloud Endura, the third-party application, like I said, recovery. So they said it's additional cost, so they want a cost-efficient way. And if I compare with other clouds, right? So example, Azure, we have a AR assist there, Azure Site Recovery, and if you compare with AWS, and I can use either EBS snapshot. Volume with incremental snapshot is there, so it's keep updating. So here GCP, I don't know which one I can use. Example, if anything outage in one site, I want to as much as possible I bring online those virtual machine in from other sites.
Okay, so snapshots. Okay,
Just one VM and one database. I want to configure like a site recovery if any outage.
so you have two
Bring
VMs
online.
basically. You have two VMs.
Yeah.
One is app, one is database. So
Yes.
you want to have a DR for this. So what you can have is this data. You take regular backups, snapshots, schedule it. So it's going to be incremental. So if something goes wrong with VM1, use a snapshot backup DR. So you use that and create your app there.
Is it
This is
possible
possible.
any asynchronous copy with the storage, the the volume asynchronous copy from one region to another region, like a VM disk asynchronous copy, which means one way only copy.
You change only?
Normally in real time. No. Normally we do in a real time, right? So in on-premise also we can do the storage replication, like one-way copy, asynchronous copy.
Mm-hmm.
Like it will sync from one. It sync from one location to another location storage. Example, the VM have a two disk. The two disk will be synced to the another location. It's basically replication.
You can have a you can copy the disk. So if I just go to the disk copy but to a different region, I would say I'll think about it, Vijay. So I'll think about it. So I'll think disk copy is not allowed. Yeah, it's not allowed. That's the reason.
Oh.
Clone, I did not choose the clone. So clone usually clones it in the same region. Sorry, same zone.
What is the best way to
More.
configure disaster recovery, Manish? In
So
disaster
I would
recovery?
say having a snapshot is, that's what I'm feeling, but I'm seeing why you're not comfortable with snapshot. So it's going to continuously update your stuffs, scheduled basis. You're going to get a snapshot and you can do it. That's one way. The other way, say for example, if this is a VM, right? I have this option of creating something called as a new image, where this is like your AMI image, Amazon image, machine image. So I can have the complete stuff.
Yeah.
in a new
But it will
region
update.
of my. No, it will not
No,
update.
I am
It
talking
will
about
not.
the okay.
What
But
needs to be
site
updated?
recovery, I need it.
What
No,
update
the
you need?
image keeps sync with. No, the AMI it keeps syncing incrementally with that source virtual machine.
The source virtual machine is down, right? That's where you're saying it is down.
No,
That's why you have to do it.
no, not kind of
Can I answer?
down. It keeps syncing. I'm saying talking about DR. In case if down only, I can use that one. Otherwise, I don't want to use. But similar way, if I compare with Azure, if ARS is there, Azure Site Recovery, what it will do whenever that my source virtual machine down, immediately that similar replica it will create on that other sites. Whenever it
Okay,
is down
I'll
only,
check it out.
creating
Can I
whenever
answer,
down only,
Mahesh?
that time only build.
Mahesh, can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yeah, Deepa, go ahead.
So he's talking about production being up in the other region, and if it fails, or if even if it doesn't fail, the block level replication has to be replicated. I asked Google about it, and Google Professional Services told me an answer yesterday. They do it via Actifio, ACTIFIO. Actifio is a Google Marketplace product that does what I don't know gentleman name who's speaking. That does it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are right. Actually, I also already had a discussion. That is a very good tool. It's and
Yeah.
also we can use for backup also.
Yeah.
Similar tool we have called in AWS also. But this is not the customer want a less cost. So that's the reason
Yeah.
because
You
this
have
would
to
be
buy
very good.
licenses,
Yeah,
for
it is
this.
very,
So
it is very easy.
it is ACTIFIO, Actifio.
Active, that is active. Yes, no.
Yeah, Mahesh.
Sorry,
ACTIFIO.
type ACT. F.
IO. So currently I got to take my 3 petabytes in US East and replicate it over to US Central.
Yeah.
And I have about 3,000 virtual machines, and I need to have same 3,000 virtual machines over there. I cannot have live, So ActiveView will actually only spin up whenever you want to do a DR exercise.
Exactly, yeah. So we all
Google,
this one
yeah.
only we did
Yeah, so
POC,
I went through at least 30 YouTube videos yesterday, and ActiveView Go is there, and there is ActiveView Mobility Manager. You have to use that to do it. But still, I have a problem because the IP address will change. I want to
No,
keep
that
the
we can use a DNS. No, that you can use a cloud DNS. In DNS, you can mention it will automatically it failure from DNS. You can use DNS. It
No,
will
I
work.
don't
I
want to
already
fail.
tested.
That's the problem. I don't want to fail over. My production, my entry point into the company is going to be US East in Virginia, but I don't want to change my entry point in DR. My DR will be, I want to test my DR in US Central in Dallas. So basically, I want to have a similar IP address. Same IP
Yeah,
address.
similar
Same.
IP address only. In we can configure in DNS. In AWS, the Route 53 is very easy for that. I hope this also similar like that for a
You
cloud
can,
DNS.
right? You have to change project.
Yeah, when you say configure in DNS, I think DNS will, I think global. It is not specific to project, I believe. Right,
Yeah, so
It
I don't
can
Mangesh?
want
actually.
to.
The A record. A record you can change it. The cloud DNS. The A records you can change it.
That is my burning question for last 6 months now. My IP address keeps changing. I cannot do that. I need to have the same IP address. Basically, I want to have a DR in a bubble format. So same production, same DR. And then I shut down DR. DR does his own job, passes the compliance test, but my production is still running out of Virginia.
Okay.
Okay.
So my DNS A record doesn't change. Whenever somebody enters through my global load balancer, global TCP load balancer, they enter US East Virginia. They don't enter US Central in Dallas. So I want to keep
Okay.
that traffic going for rest of the year, even when the DR is going on. But when a DR exercise
No,
is
for
going
that
on,
the load balance.
I'm sorry?
No, the load balancer you need to configure route balance round robin in load balancer. There are various
Round
options we
robin,
need to configure in load
it
balancer.
will send traffic to Virginia for the first pass. For the second traffic that comes in, it's going to send it to Dallas. It's not
And also
going
we
to.
can if a dedicated yeah, and also dedicate also configure, and least load also we can able to configure in load balance. Also nearest location also we can able to configure, or you can use a CDN also in this case.
No, that
CDN will
will
be a
not
best
work.
option.
I can argue against every single point in detail. Why CDN will not work? Why the load balancer round robin will not work? And even Mahesh can see the same thing. And even we looked at traffic director from Google. So Google Professional Services came back with, we provided the requirement, it came back with ActiveView. That's the only
Yeah.
way you can do it with ActiveView.
Yes, and each cloud provider also similar like their own product.
They
AWS
cannot
also they are
do,
promoting cloud
but
endure.
still, even in ActiveView, my IP address changed. So we are given Google network engineers told them that we need a bubble DR where my IP address does not change.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But in active here they will support. That is one advantage is there, but it is cost choice. Customer not okay with the cost for the because
Yeah,
the
but it's
encryption is
still
not that
cheaper
much.
than maintaining live migration, right? Live, active. It's still cheaper than active. Because right now I got 3,000 instances in US East. Then I'll be spinning up 3,000 instances in US Central, which is in Dallas. Then I have 6,000 virtual machines that I'm paying cost of just in case of a DR with a
So
replicated
instead of
traffic.
Yeah,
DR,
I
you give
understand.
it to this software is what you're saying. This or this tool. This is what you're saying, Deepak.
Yeah, so ActiveView will do it.
Okay, active.
If you
Yeah,
don't want to buy ActiveView, the ActiveView's competition is the only competition is the VMware layer, which is Vplex with Veeam. There is some called Dyna. Can you please type, since you're on Google, ActiveView? You see that? Just take Google out. ActiveView's
no
competition.
Cloud India comparison.
Cloud and
Cloud India also competition on.
Yeah.
Cloud Endure is from AWS, right?
No,
Yeah, AWS is a
not
competitive
versus.
product.
Not versus. ActiveView competition. Yeah, just enter. I'll tell you which company it is.
You done?
Yeah, that one. Just say that.
Yeah.
You want me to click on the first link, Deepak?
Yeah.
Sorry. If it's Gartner, okay. They have shared that.
It's by VMware. I used to work for EMC, so I know. If you go down, something starts with D, DynaVault or something like that. VMware acquired that company. Veeam acquired that company, not Zerto, not Micro Focus. Sorry, I visited this website last night only. Not Carbonite, not Cohesity, not IBM, not Rubrik. Veeam, see, Veeam is 38%. Can you go back or click on Veeam? These are all the enterprise solutions, yeah. Veeam, click on link, Veeam, yeah.
You're talking about Denodo?
Yeah, Denado. That's the only other company which does it. Those are the two companies who do it. And that's why Google acquired Activio and VMware acquired this Dynado.
Okay.
But still, there's a lot of manual steps you gotta do. I want to do it via Terraform in minutes because I have a 2-hour RTO and 4-hour RPO, and it's coming up in August. So more I talk about it with Google, it looks like it's going to be August 2022. I don't have a solution.
You are using Terraform for what? This application or
Right
data?
now, Terraform for building the production in US East.
Oh, building production. Oh, okay, got it.
And I want to use the same Terraform in there. But we
how
are
about
not.
the data?
I want the whole
How
traffic
about
to continue to come to US East. I don't want to disrupt my US East traffic, even in DR.
Okay, maybe that
Even
could be
in
a good
DR, in
solution.
DR exercise, if there is obviously a US Virginia were to go down because of earthquake or flooding or blackout, then yeah, it makes sense. Then obviously it's a different story. I'm talking about a simulated disaster where I don't know if you're used to storage replication or not, where you can actually suspend the link
To stop.
on recover point appliances and then bring up your DR.
Yeah,
But your production is still going.
yeah. That I understand that.
Yeah.
Definitely
So
we can do that.
basically,
But
the
I'm only worried.
one-line question is, we do not want to do. Again, we told Google the same thing. We do not want to do failover and failback, which storage replication products can do. We want to do split traffic. That's what we want to do. Split, which is a recover point feature where you say suspend the link. In old days with SRDF, you can do SIM RDF lift split on your day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what similar kind of I want to compare.
Yeah.
Because SRDF I was using in VMware site recovery manager, we configure that SRDF.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
basically, you
similar
know what I'm
stuff
talking
I'm
about.
thinking here.
I want my R2s to be read write. That's exactly what I want to do. But at the same time, my R1s is still collecting the write pending tracks. So basically, all the traffic is coming to R1 only, but it's not replicating for the day, for the week of the disaster exercise, DR exercise. You know what I mean? So when I do SIM RDS
Yeah, I got
split, the traffic is not flowing to the Dallas from Virginia. It's Virginia is still production, but I never promote Dallas to production.
Folks, I have to stop it because
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
have
I'm
a
sorry.
hard
Yeah, yeah,
stop. So,
yeah. I'm
so
sorry.
we'll stop.
That's why.
Interesting discussion, a
If you
real
want me
use
to
case,
shut up
but
whenever you want me to
yeah,
shut up.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
my issue.
All right, folks. It was a good discussion, actually. Totally a real
Yeah.
implementation, real problem. So
Yeah.
thanks, Deepak, and thanks, Vijay, for sharing
Yeah, let
your
me know if
useful things.
anybody wants to talk about this. I will put my
Sure, we
number
can.
in the
We,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Just call
All
me
right,
or
folks. We'll
Yeah.
mostly text me. I don't pick up my phone.
Okay. Yeah, can you share your number, Deepak? I'll text.
I did.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you,
Thank you,
folks.
Mahesh.
See you tomorrow. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.